In a world drowning in noise, where truth is often buried beneath layers of propaganda and misinformation, there's a need for a different kind of a network of creators that cuts through the clutter, that doesn't shy away from tough topics, and that delivers the unfiltered truth. We are Trim Radio Network. We are creators, we are innovators, we are investigators. We're the ones who aren't afraid to call a spade a spade. If you're ready to participate in thought-provoking discussions, informational topics, and of course today's biggest headlines, subscribe to our YouTube channel today. We're Trim Radio Network. We're cutting the bull and serving the truth.
And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. Take the red pill, 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 take the red. You stay in Wonderland. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Now, from the northeast quadrant of the United States, it's the Red Pill Reality Show with your host, Riscalla. Saturday nights from 9 p.m. Eastern until midnight on the Trim Radio Network. You can join the conversation in any of our chat rooms. And now, without further ado, your host, Riscalla.
Hello and welcome, everyone. It is the Red Pill Reality Show. It's an honor and a privilege to have you join me. Tonight, I'm going to have Tom Pepe with me, and I think my friend may join me. Tom has had... if you look at it through Tom's eyes, it has been hell for him on earth, trying to make his way through the legal barriers that stop sometimes people from justice, just what is right. Sometimes it is so obvious what is right, but then the legal people step in and just mess it all up. And so we'll get a full story on that tonight. He's going to give me an update. We had him on a while back. It was kind of horrific, some of the things that were done to him. Think of what happened to Trump on a much smaller scale, but you see what's happened. I mean, you see it on a national scale, what they did to a previous president, how they ran him through the mill, attempted to break him. Fortunately for many of us who support him, that isn't the case. So anyway, Tom will be on, and we'll have a deeper discussion about that. In the meantime, there's something that I had mentioned on my shows many times years back. I haven't mentioned it in quite a while, but it came up on one of my feeds, and it is the Georgia Guidestones. I've had people literally tell me to my face they cannot be friends with me because my outlook for the future is too pessimistic. This is right after I told him about the Georgia Guidestones. Riscalla, you're such a conspiracy theorist. Okay, listen, for us conspiracy theorists, I think we're batting like 37 out of 37 right now, right? All right, so I want to play this for us. Just a couple of minutes long, but just to refresh the memory, because I want to say something that I noticed when I watched this particular video. So if you notice, there was something apparently on what appeared to be like the roof component of that thing. This. Take a close look at that. Now, if you understand, if you have any idea how these people think, and I don't pretend that I do, but I think I have an inclination. They're purely evil, totally evil. Everything they do is evil. If you noticed in the video, the first line, the very first line, says to maintain humanity with nature at 500 million. I may have it backward. It's those basic words, bringing humanity down, the population down to 500, educating on responsible reproduction. And it's just, it sounds great, but what it really boils down to is more power for them and more of our rights being stripped from us. So understanding that these people they're just purely evil. There's no way around it. I think what we're looking at here is blood. A blood sacrifice done to this monument in order for it to take spiritually. I may be wrong, but I can't think of, I don't see any pipes up there that could rust and leave a mark. I don't see anything up there that could leave that kind of a, remains. And it's too bad because I didn't know this until just recently. I didn't see this until just a couple of days ago. I had never bothered to look up on the top of this thing. But I really believe that's blood. The Bible says that we're not in a physical battle. We're in a spiritual battle. And not to question the Bible, but I kind of feel we're like a little bit of both. These people have set their curse in place, and then I guess maybe somebody figured out. I don't know when that showed up. I have no idea when this showed up, because it is running. You can see on the upper left leg of it. It's there as well, and if it's there, it probably ran down, so it was probably visible. But I've seen many pictures of it, and I had never seen anything like that. So this may be recent with regard to how, when it was originally put up, it may not have been originally put up. It may not have originally have been there when it was put up. It may have been applied at some later date. But I really think that's blood is what we're looking at. And it is truly alarming. If you don't know what the Georgia Guidestones said, look it up. Look it up. It's pretty scary. What makes it scary is that, sadly, there are people who are in power that can make this happen. When you realize that there are families, private families, that have more money than a freaking country. There are families that have more money than our country. And money speaks, baby. It's sad. It's too bad that that's the way things are, but money speaks. So if you've got trillions of dollars or hundreds of billions of whatever, you can buy yourself anything. Buy yourself a country if you want. Get yourself a bunch of mercenaries. Buy a bunch of marketing. Get the people in the country to be unsatisfied with the existing government. Have the people in the country overthrow the government, and then you throw your people in place. Sound familiar? That's the reality that we live in, and I'm sad to admit it. Because when I found out a lot of this stuff, it really messed me up mentally. When I found out that the war that I was in, when I was in the service, in the Air Force, the Vietnam War, was all based on a lie. And I found that information on a government site. So it wasn't like one of those conspiracy sites. I thought I was having a mental breakdown. I thought I'm telling you, as God is my witness, I thought I was dreaming. I'm going to wake up. This can't be true. Our government doesn't go kill people over a lie. We just don't do that. We have more honor than that. Stupid. Ignorant. Maybe not stupid, ignorant. I thought I was having a mental breakdown. I really did. I couldn't believe that this was my reality. I went and enlisted in the service, believing that what I was doing was preserving freedom, only to find out that the war that I served in during the time that I served, the war that was occurring during the time that I served, I was fortunate. 2 weeks before I was headed to Vietnam, I was called back. 2 weeks. I was sweating bullets because I had friends that went, did not come back. I had friends that came back. They weren't the same. Just horrific things that they were exposed to. 2 weeks. But when I found out that it was all based on a lie, the whole thing was a lie. I was ignorant. I didn't understand that wars were a money machine, a very big money machine, and that the continuation of these cold wars, as they called them, was a tremendous profit for them. They make, and when you have someone who is supporting both sides, remember earlier I told you there are families that have more money than countries. They support both sides because they win. It doesn't matter. The loser, they take over the country. The winner, they get all the money that the winner spent on buying all the garbage that they needed to kill people. So when I found that out, that was in 2002. What started that whole thing for me was 9/11. I did a show on 9/11 just 3 weeks ago, I think it was. There's too many questions. Way too many questions. And I make statements and people say, Riscalla, I can't listen to you anymore. You're just flipped out crazy. One of the statements that I make, and I still make today, and I am firmly standing behind it, there were no aircraft. I know some of them are going, oh my God, here we go. Go do a little research. Go watch some of the videos carefully. Slow them down. There's one particular video that you can watch. It's still up. And I think it's CBS. I may be wrong about the network, but I think it's CBS. And the aircraft is headed towards the building. And there are some buildings in the background. And as it passes by these buildings in the background, the wing disappears. That doesn't happen in real life. That's one. Number two, think about the way the aircraft entered into the building. It is as though the aircraft were heated knives, red hot, and the building was softened butter. The building basically sucked the aircraft in. There's another video that if you look carefully, you can find these. They're still up. There's another video that shows the building from the side, aircraft entering the front of the building and coming out the rear. And then, oh, that was a mistake, backing it back out again. They were CGI. If anybody saw anything, it was more than likely a hologram. There are technologies that are being withheld from us that would blow your mind, totally blow your mind. And I can witness to you that's a fact because when I was in the service, when I was in the Air Force in 1970, yeah. God, that was a long time ago. When I was in the Air Force, serving in the Air Force, we had now this is 1970, mind you, we had remote controlled aircraft that were controlled by computers on the ground. The remote controlled drones that we shot up had receivers on them that when our fighters would go up, this was to hone out their fighting abilities. When our fighters would go up and chase these things and they would do maneuvers to get the fighters to hone their skills, the fighters would shoot lasers. 1970, they would shoot lasers at these drones, and the drones, depending upon where the laser hit the drone, the computer down on the ground would record that hit, and if it was a severe hit, the drone would shut down and parachute back down, and we would go recover the drone and do it over again. 1970. I worked with base supply. I worked right next to the computer building. The computer that we had then it had its own ground. It didn't have the regular floor like the rest of the building. It had its own floor, static floor. The guy looked like a doctor that was in there, wore a net over his head, over his hair, wore white. It was enclosed in its own air conditioned system, an enclosed system separate from the rest of the building. The size of this thing was the size of probably a garage, a large 2-car garage. It took this computer system. We have more computing power today in our phones than we had in the computer system that I was exposed to. But that computer system was for base supply. The computer systems that were for controlling the drones, you had to have a top secret. My clearance was secret. You had to have a top secret, even to get the parts, because we had to look at the TOs. We had to look at the technical manuals to look up the parts. So if you didn't have top secret, you couldn't access any of it. But we knew they were there. We knew obviously they were there shooting these drones up, and they're being controlled on the ground. Technology is being held with us. Technology that could greatly advance our lives, make our lives much easier. And I'm not talking about AI. AI is a scary thing. If you understand that these people, these evil, sick psychopaths, will tell you what they're going to do. This is one of the laws that they have. They have to tell you what they're going to do before they do it. How they tell you could be a variety of ways. They may be able to get the message across maybe on a billboard one day, or in a video, or in a movie, or in music, but they will get the message to you. Sometimes it's encrypted. Sometimes it's not encrypted. Sometimes it's just right in your face. But they will tell you what they're going to do before they do it. Why am I saying this? We have AI coming up where President Trump has said he is going to get, I think it was $500 billion towards AI. If anybody remembers the several movies that came out, we have the Terminator. We already have Terminators, believe it or not. They're already existing. They're just not out in the public yet, but we have Terminators. And then we had one that was called I Am Robot with Will Smith. He's driving along in his auto driving car. All of a sudden, the car, Will is speaking out about something he doesn't like. He if I'm going by memory, he feels that the robots can't be trusted. He's going to see his mom or something like that. He's driving down the highway and he's on autopilot. And all of a sudden, this what appears to be looks like a bus or something pulls up alongside of him, and this thing begins to try to ram him side by side. He takes control of the vehicle and takes off. My point being is they're telling us right now, right then, in these movies, many times what they're going to do, many times. If you don't pay attention, it'll be a complete surprise to you. Many people were told about 9/11 long before 9/11 happened. There's a video that is still available online. If you want to know the truth, go look up this video. The name of the video is The Lone Gunman. Go look up The Lone Gunman, and you will find a video that indicates what was going to happen 6 or 7 months before 9/11. And yet we had representatives of the government standing before the press saying, oh, we had no idea that they would ever take aircraft and use them as weapons against the people. People ask me what happened to the people on the aircraft, Riscalla. If there were no aircraft, what happened to the original aircraft? I don't know. I can tell you it reminds me of the Northwoods Project. Look up the Northwoods Project, a project that was presented to President Kennedy. They were going to do a very similar thing. They were going to take a commercial aircraft, launch it from Miami International Airport, fly it over Homestead Air Base. Just as it got over the air base, another aircraft identically marked to the original aircraft was going to fly up in its place. So this thing would fall below the radar for a minute. So it would go blip off the radar, and then within a couple of seconds, maybe the same thing shows up again. They got the same EPIRB on it. To radar, it looks like the same aircraft. Fly it over the Atlantic, get it right near the Cuban waterways, and then have it report back that It was being attacked by Cuban MiGs. We're being attacked by Cuban MiGs. Blow the aircraft up so that there's all kinds of leftovers in the water. We could see, oh, that's an act of war. Kennedy didn't like that. Then, of course, they tried the Bay of Pigs. That didn't go over very well either. My point being is that, sadly, it is sad for me to tell you this because I served our country believing that I was doing good. And my message with regard to the government, they're not your friend. I don't care who's up there. I don't care. I know a lot of people say, oh, Trump. Maybe he's doing a good job. I'm not there and behind the scenes to tell you. I can tell you on the surface, at least I am glad that he's getting rid of these illegal people. But there's a lot of things he's doing I'm not too happy with. Gas go down for you? Gas hasn't gone down for me. Has your price at the grocery store gone down? We were told that these things were going to get under control. They say they are. I don't know. Where I'm at, they're not. They're basically the same as they were before. Actually, gas went up about 5 cents, I guess because of Memorial Day. It's crazy the games they play with us. You see a holiday coming up, you see the summer coming up, the price of gas goes up. Why? Because they know people want to drive. What? And what hurts me, what really hurts me, is that I have the knowledge that we can run our cars on different, it doesn't have to be petrol. It doesn't have to be that. We can run our cars on water. And here we go. We're off the deep end. Riscalla's going. There are people who have done it. I had built this little contraption they called an HHO generator, a hydrogen generator. Stuck it in my car. Now, I couldn't get the car to run strictly on the hydrogen. The hydrogen was coming from water and splitting the water and turning it into hydrogen and oxygen. I couldn't get enough to run the car, but I got enough to supplement the mileage. Knocked my mileage up to 25. First time was 50%, then the stupid computers catch on and they knock it back down. But I was getting 22 miles to the gallon without it. And when I started using it, it jumped up to like 29. Wow. The technology is there. There's many people in the past who have invented, when the cars had carburetors, they don't have carburetors anymore. Everything's fuel injected, more control. When the cars had carburetors, there were people who invented carburetors that the cars were getting over 100 miles to the gallon. Those people either disappeared or were bought off. There was a man back in the mid-70s by the name of Stanley Meyer. He was ticked off at our situation because the Arabs had decided to do this thing called an Arab embargo. The oil that we were getting from Saudi Arabia was being held back on purpose to punish us. And he felt that, my God, here is a country that's smaller than the size of Texas and has brought our whole country to its knees. For those of you who did not experience that, thank God you didn't. There were lines that were over an hour long. You could only get 5 gallons of gas. You were not allowed to put gas in any containers, only in your car. And during that whole thing, Stanley said, I'm not putting up with this. Is ridiculous. He figured out a way to take water and turn it into fuel. He broke it down. Water's what? H2O. Two molecules of hydrogen, 1 molecule of oxygen. He broke them down, the perfect ratio for a tremendous amount of energy if it's subjected to fire, ran it through a dune buggy, and you can see it's still on there's still videos that you can still see. Stanley Meyer, water gas or gas for water, I can't remember exactly what it is, water for fuel or something like that. Sadly for Stanley, as a patriot, because that's what he was trying to be as a patriot, he went to the government and said, hey, guess what? You guys never have to worry about fuel for any of your vehicles or your ships. You get your ship out there, think about it. Think about how much fuel an aircraft carrier has to carry, unless they're nuclear. But if they're not, or these other ships, how much fuel they have to carry if they're diesel or whatever they run. Don't have to worry about that anymore. Use the ocean. His mistake was going to the government. He didn't last but several years after that because the government found out he was going to come out with an injector plug. He figured out how to break the water down very quickly, very efficiently, and he was going to come out with an injector plug. He figured out how to get a transfer of fuel from gasoline to water. It was going to be, you take these injector plugs out of your car, which just about every car has now injector plugs. Take him out of your car. You put these injector plugs in. You put one of his computers in. And now the car runs on water. You fill your tank up with water, and you probably need to fill your tank up once every 2 or 3 months. You get hundreds of gallons, hundreds of miles per gallon when you're dealing with water. God forbid you get in an accident. God forbid you run over something on the highway and it punctures your gas tank. It's not a gas tank. It's a water tank. No big deal. How much is it going to cost you to travel with regard to fuel? Right? Stanley was murdered a couple of years afterwards when the government found out that he was he was working on the invention of the plug. He was murdered. He was having dinner with his brother and another friend and took a bite of something. He said, I've been poisoned, and dropped dead. So time and again, technology exists that would help us, that would make our lives so much easier. But that technology instead, if it cannot be controlled, if it cannot be profited from, then it cannot come forward. And in many cases, for example, I'm sure people have heard of these things called the med beds. These med beds are purposely being withheld from us. I knew about med beds, 18 years ago? 18 years ago. I heard about med beds. I had seen what somebody would call a med bed. It was called an EMF, PEMF. A PEMF, it was like a mat that you lay. It was a body length mat that you laid on, and this thing presented you with different frequencies. And in the process of doing that, it helps the circulation of your body. So when you sit on this thing for half an hour and you get up and your circulation is like a race car. You may have went in like a Volkswagen. Now it's like a race car. I experienced it. It was amazing. Back then were like $25,000. Not very many people could afford them. But now, from what I understand, they're going to be available, supposedly, allegedly. They're going to be available, and they're going to be for, was it disabled vets first, I think. I'm still waiting. There are things that are happening that I'm very, very appreciative of. I am appreciative of getting rid of the people who don't belong here, because many of them we know have ill intentions for other people. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the Maha movement. Finally, because I have two of them. I have a nephew and a niece. When they were very young, their parents were having a very difficult time with them, especially after they had particular candies. And we found out later on it was red number 40. They were having reactions to red number 40, and it was like a I can't remember the name of that ball, a zip ball. It was like this. It was like if you've ever seen a cartoon where the characters are bouncing literally off the walls, it was like that. If you've ever had an animal that had the zoomies, it was kind of like that. And you couldn't slow them down. It was like, oh my God, what happened to these people? So that's just one thing. There's so many things that are in our food is no longer food. Our food is a representation of something we eat and tastes good. That's really what it all boils down to, is taste anymore. It has really nothing to do with nutritional value. It's about taste. If it tastes good, hey, then we'll go ahead and do it. I'm looking for Pete. I'm sorry. I'm looking for Tom. I apologize. All right. Well, he hasn't arrived yet, and I typically take a break right around now. I'm going to take a quick break. I'll see if I can get a hold of Tom and find out where he's at. I see my friend is on. Okay, so we'll bring him on as well, and we'll take a quickie. If I can find somewhere in there. Here we go.
You're listening to the Red Pill Reality Show. We'll be right back.
Take the red pill, take the blue pill, take the red pill.
I can't help but look around and feel like things are getting out of hand. We've been told to trust the science, but the science just doesn't make sense. They say it isn't mandatory, but they also say your jab or your job. But if it doesn't stop the spread, it makes it feel like this is just a facade. What about the healthcare workers? What about the frontline nurses? How quickly we forget that they were working 18 hours a day. What about informed consent? What about due diligence? It seems a country that I used to call home is surely slipping away. I can't help but look around and feel like minds are slowly starting to change. Cause even if you're triple vaccinated, know that segregation isn't the way. Freedom is a choice and it's available to all if we choose. But first things first, you gotta turn off the news. Yo, what about the healthcare workers? What about the frontline nurses? How quickly we forget that they were working 18 hours a day. What about informed consent? What about due diligence? It seems the country that I used to call home is surely slipping away. If you're late to the party, there's plenty room at the table. This side don't discriminate. I'm calling on every single man, woman, child if they're able. It's time to take the streets and liberate. But please don't be a part of the problem, staying willfully ignorant, cause there's just way too much at stake. Yo, it's okay to change your mind, you can admit you were wrong, cause where there's perfect love there ain't no shame. Heavenly Father, show me what I don't understand yet. I got my marching orders, I don't fully know the plan yet. Hold on to my Bible before bed, no it ain't banned yet. Did you know the makers of the vaccine make the Xanax? I would never lean on corporations for morality, cause they put their profits over people for their salaries. Know they wanna make you bend the knee for your normality. I know you feeling all alone, but in reality, there's way more of us than them. 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 That's the truth. There's way more of us than them. There's way more of us than them. There's way more of us. There's way more of us than them.
And we're back. Hope you didn't go too far, because we have more interesting and thought-provoking information for you coming up on the Red Pill Reality Show.
All right, we are back. It is the Red Pill Reality Show. Thank you for joining. Greatly appreciate it. All right, so right now I've got my friend Eric. Eric is a probation attorney. He's someone I've known for many years. If you happen to know of anybody that is in need of a probation attorney, I would, without question, very quickly recommend Eric. Let me bring him on. Eric, welcome to the Red Pill Reality Show.
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Good.
Let me correct you for a second, though. You said probation, so no criminal law here, my friend. Probate.
I'm sorry.
No.
Dyslexia.
So if you need any criminal attorneys, I'm sure I could refer them, but certainly do not handle that myself. So,
all right, yeah, thank you. I apologize.
No worries. Wanted to clarify in case some of your listeners were looking for a criminal attorney. So
cool. All right, here comes Tommy. Welcome to the Red Pill Reality Show.
Good evening, Stephen. How are you?
Good, my friend. And is Ted your friend? Is that
Yes.
okay? So we have Ted as well. Ted, welcome to the Red Pill Reality Show. You are muted, my friend. Unmute your microphone.
Moot. As
we
they
go.
say in legal terms.
Hey, how you doing?
All right. So, Tommy, give us a Reader's Digest version for those of us who don't know what that means. It means like the short version, because him and I have talked about this, and we could do this for hours. But just a kind of a quick overview, so people have an idea what all of this is about.
Okay, so the last time I was here, we were speaking about the process in the probate courts in Lee County, Florida. And what I had experienced. And I'm still battling the probate of my father, Eugene Pepe. And there's all bumps and new hurdles at this point. But real briefly, my father died in 2020. I was named personal administrator of his estate. As I went through the probate, I had an attorney. Actually, I had several attorneys who withdraw from my case for one reason or another. Based upon what they told me was the concerns that I had. The probate judges didn't want to hear it, which is the criminality. That's what I was told by both attorneys, that they didn't want to deal with it. They wanted to push through the probate. That's what their job was, and settle the estate. As the personal administrator, I understood that and felt that thought that the only proper thing to do was to deal with the whole picture. I mean, how could you possibly have a final accounting in an estate when a brother has 3 retirement accounts that he won't disclose to the court? So, so their rush to get me to the end of this probate was going to leave me very vulnerable to a lot of criminality, so to speak, things that I shouldn't have done. And I think that they thought that I would fall for all of it, because Lord knows we tried to do everything. But I stand tall in what it's just really common sense. I'm not an attorney, Stephen. I have never been through this process. I was never an administrator or an executor in an estate. So I was familiarizing myself with this, and it was, I had never been through this experience. Okay, I had lost a lot of people in my life, including a best friend when I was in my early 20s, and I understood that when someone passed away, things were quiet. And then my father's passing, there's a lot of people coming at me, a lot of chit chatter, a lot of gossip, a lot of accusations towards me, a lot of hostile behavior, a lot of anger. I was so confused. I was so upset, and then I'm trying to deal with the fact of what really occurred in his death. And you and I've talked about this, and I believe he was murdered. I mean, you connect the dots, and it tells you what occurred. This is all, everything that I speak about, Stephen, is all things that people in my father's probate did or didn't do. So when I'm explaining things that I think my father was murdered, it's because, well, Stephen Pepe has 2 weeks of my father's mail before death certificate. How does that happen? I go to the post office to confirm that they delivered his mail or didn't deliver his mail, is what I was expecting to hear. Because when I went down to do a biohazard cleanup, which I thought was strange to begin with, when the sheriff's office called me to tell me that he had passed away, they said, "You need to come down here and do a biohazard cleanup." And I thought that was very strange. It said, because I Googled it, and it talks a lot about homicide, murder, whatever. I just didn't expect that. And so when I got down there, I expected to see a lot of mail in his mailbox. I mean, he decomposed for 17 days, I was told. I was the only person in my father's life. My other 3 siblings had nothing to do with him for over 20 years. And Stephen Pepe, a probate court, confirms that in his opposition of me being the administrator. So it was very confusing to me. I couldn't understand. In one breath, they're telling me they don't want anything to do with my father. They don't want any of his money. They don't want this. They don't want that. But yet they're in the court fighting me every step of the way. And I didn't understand why. Now I understand.
Let me ask you, the issue that you're having right now, the problems that you're running into, are they primarily because of probate?
Oh, well, okay. First of all, the issues are this. The probate is at a standstill. They can't close the probate because I have all of my criminality questions that concerns in that case. And so I presented to the judges, Elaine Laboda, who recused herself a long time ago. Then Mr. McHugh, Judge Michael McHugh, Honorable Michael McHugh, was supposed to be closing this probate out. And so I presented to him, I also present that there's no administrator over this probate in over 2 years, and how are they going to close this out? And we just did a foreclosure proceing. Where's the final accounting going to come from? Who's doing it? And so I motioned for a new administrator, and that goes on deaf ears like everything else did. Judge Elaine Laboda actually took, I don't even know how many motions of mine and just called them a nullity and threw them all out. I mean, she threw out everything I requested.
So let me get back to the question though. Is the issue that you're running into because probate was when your dad had passed away and passed on, however that happened? Is it because it wasn't? I'm trying to figure out how to word it. Is it because he didn't leave instructions or he didn't leave the
will?
Proper? Did he have a will?
He had a will. It's gone.
And
the will is gone.
So you're not able to present the will.
No, sir.
Okay. So
it's an intestate case.
So I get, but the point I'm trying to get at is if had this been set up properly, then you probably would not be going through all of this.
Not at all. Not at all.
Fair?
Yes, that's fair. And Stephen, I want to say this. I loved my brothers and sisters. And it wouldn't have been any problem for me to divide the estate however they wanted. So I don't understand why this is a problem, because even if it was an intestate case, let's just say, I had no problem splitting it however way they wanted it. My life is not governed by money. It never has been. It never will be. So it's a problem of many different factors: family, probate, attorneys, and not every judge is crooked. Not every attorney is not good. I'm not saying that because I've come across amazing people, amazing judges, amazing attorneys. What they want you to believe is that the entire system is corrupt. And what I'm just learning, just as we get to this point from the last time I saw you, is that that's not so. Because what they do is they overcast the shadow of belief that everybody is against you, and that it's everybody, and then it's every attorney, and it's every judge. And it's very easy to fall into that thinking mode.
Why did you feel like that?
Huh?
What caused you to feel that way? Or what would cause somebody to feel that way?
They're narrating the whole story through the court, through the probate. So the important factor is that they have to be the narrator. So while they're narrating everything, the story that they're telling and the actors that they have participating are naturally against you, because it's going to benefit them somehow. So they're all benefiting somehow. I'm not sure how. I would guess monetarily, but I can't say. Maybe they owe each other's favors. Who knows? I don't know. But I do know that part of this stratagem is to get you to think that it's everywhere. And I'm just now realizing that it's not true, that there are really some amazing law enforcement people out there that are behind me, that are hearing me, that are supporting me, that are following the law and seeing that I'm heard, and that my father's estate is handled properly with dignity. My father was a veteran of the Korean War. He had epilepsy as a result for his whole life. And so he suffered his whole life because of that. And so to me, it's very personal, because I was in his life and I know the struggles he had. And I know what it took for him just to support his 4 children financially and emotionally, and his wife, his 2 wives, actually. He was married twice. So I know the extra hurdles he had to go through, because I not only witnessed them, but I felt them. And so,
where do you feel at this point? Where do you feel that the law had, the law has stepped in, or the law is causing you not to be able to reach, your final destination, put all this to rest? Is it the court? Is it a judge? Is it a lawyer? Is it your family, or is it everything?
it's a combination of everyone. It's a combination of a huge RICO, and this term I just discovered yesterday, which I just was blown away by it. A huge RICO enterprise, where there's a lot of people involved that are all a part of the same agenda, and so it's a little bit of everything. See, I got lucky because the buyer in my father's estate, who claims I breached the contract, a real estate contract with him for my father's house, which is false. He's the one that actually breached it, but he's narrating the story that I breached the contract. And so the judge, Elaine Blaboda, doesn't hear any of my defenses, showing her the proof and evidence that no, he's the one that actually he's presenting you a different contract. So she doesn't hear any of that. So what happens is it stalls the estate for 2 years. What winds up happening is the house goes into foreclosure, which is what my brother wants, because now he's going to be buying it back at pennies on the dollar and cutting me out of my share, unbeknownst to me. So they think. And so I have to go through the process. There's nothing I can do, because so the foreclosure process is separate from the probate. The bank wants their money and they don't care. And
So
that attorney,
if you solve the probate, it will solve the foreclosure. Is that fair to say?
that's exactly right.
So
There shouldn't have been a foreclosure.
Right now the probate is hung up. Correct. Right now the
Yeah.
probate is hung up, and the reason, aside from your family, the legal aspect of the holdup is what? Why are they saying, well, we can't go we have to stop here?
Well, they just stopped there. So what happens is that my father's house goes into foreclosure last year, 2024, June 13th. So for a year, nothing has happened. The bank got their money. The house was auctioned off, which I'm not going to go into that, but it's auctioned off. And the probate is the probate matters. The whole part of the estate is not closed as a case. It's still left open because nobody has done anything. Nobody has assigned a new administrator. Nobody has done a final accounting. Nobody even knows what's what there anymore.
So
Because
where's the paperwork for the accounting? Who has that?
that's a good question. I would imagine Stephen Pepe has it.
That's your brother?
Yeah, because all of that was robbed before I even got to.
How did he get a hold of that if you were the original? If I understand you correctly, you were the original administrator. Am I right?
Correct.
How did he get all that?
Stephen, they have all my father's finances before my father's. How can I say? They have my father's finance. They had to get the finances before my father died. So what they do is it's a combination. It's almost like it's got to be timed. You know, they're stalking his house.
So
According
at the last minute, if I understand what you're saying, so to speak, in terms of overall time, the last minute they stepped into his life and they became nosy, if you will, and found out all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And then he passed away, and they had physical possession of stuff that you were supposed to have. Is that fair?
Yes, and yeah. My father dies. I go down to his house. There's no mail in the mailbox.
Yeah,
now I'm the only one that was told according to the detective in Lee County, that they called me to tell me he passed away. They didn't call any other family members. I didn't call anybody but my friend Ted Long and my sister-in-law Maria. So how my brothers and sisters knew he was dead and how they got that mail before I even got down there, 24 hours, is really odd, because they got 2 weeks of his prior mail before he died.
You're sure that neither one of your siblings were told before you?
Well, even if they were, so they sat at the mailbox every day waiting for the mailman to come.
Oh, I don't know. Do they live nearby?
Well, there could have been a change in the mail. The mail could have been changed electronically through the postal service, so that would have avoided having.
Oh, they could have put in a change of.
Yeah, but if my father was alive, my father would have realized he wasn't getting any mail. and would have called the post office. I mean, here's my point. Somebody had to know he was dead to either electronically get that mail changed or sit by that mailbox. Because my father got a lot of mail. I have a copy of his credit report. The man was as shrewd as anything. He died with an 800 credit score. So he moved money around. He was part of the military. He knew what he was doing. And so he was having a lot of things going on. God bless him. And so somebody had to have known, because if the mailman's bringing the mail to his box and he's dead, let's say upstairs, by the third day, they told me they would have left a note in the mailbox. Please come to the post office to get your mail.
Yeah.
That's almost for 3 weeks. 3 weeks of mail.
Yeah.
Linda Catano, I would talk to her. She buys a house in Naples 6 months before my father's dead.
So at this point, you're kind of frozen with regard to the probate issue. You're at their mercy. Is that a fair statement? Because you're waiting for them to say, okay, now we can go forward.
Yeah. Well, now they can close the estate, but I don't know. I don't see how. Listen, I'm not an attorney, Stephen. I'm just going by my experience, and I'm just wondering, well, how are they going to close this estate? If they come to me and say, well, where's your accounting? I don't have any accounting. Well, I mean,
but why would they come to you if your brother's the administrator?
Why was the administrator?
Representative is the only one that is required to provide an accounting or get a waiver of accounting. The other beneficiaries are not.
I was the administrator.
Hang on, Tom. Say it again, Eric.
Okay, so here's the thing. You at one point, Tom, were the personal representative of the estate, but then you were removed at some point?
I had to resign due to health reasons.
Okay. So you were gone, and then your brother was appointed. Now,
never.
you mentioned the condo or the
Stephen
house.
was never appointed. No one was ever appointed.
Okay, so no one after you. Usually the court will at some point, they're not going to let it be no one serving at some point, even if they appoint like a curator or something like that. They would appoint an outsider to serve in that role, usually when the parties can't agree. So,
never.
But okay,
no one was
the thing
assigned.
about it is, I want to find out a little bit more. I want to find out about the assets, because you mentioned this condo, but it's homestead. It's a house, but it's homestead property. So what happens is, through the court, an order should be issued distributing it between you and your siblings, making the four of you the owners directly, not in the estate, because the estate can't sell the house. The four of you individually would be selling the house.
I was told if we agreed upon that. My attorney back then said two things can happen. Either it can go through homestead, or you can, as the administrator, you can sell the house and it goes through the court. So
that's not correct. That's not correct at all.
That's what I was told.
No, it's homestead property, which means it goes to the four of you. Now, if the four of you can't agree, then a partition is involved, which is basically another process outside of probate.
That's exactly what I'm told. Yes.
Where you guys go to a separate judge to get the house sold, and then that's taken care of. But that's outside the probate.
Well, that's what I was told, and that's what I thought I conveyed to you. But yes, that's exactly what I was told, that we would have to go through the court, a petition.
A partition.
Excuse me. Yes.
Besides the homestead property, what other assets were involved?
He had several retirement accounts that Stephen Pepe tells me he has 3 of, and they're valued anywhere up to $6 million is what.
Okay. But let me ask you to confirm, because you had mentioned something at the beginning about him not providing documentation. But if it's a retirement account, typically there are a lot of beneficiary designation forms that are filled out. And
That's right.
If those are filled out, those are outside of probate.
That's right.
Whatever's on the beneficiary designation. So if you're saying that potentially your brother got to your father beforehand, before death, and maybe got him to change forms, and your father didn't know what he was doing, perhaps, that's a separate matter. That's a litigation directly against your brother for undue influence.
That's not what I'm alleging.
Okay.
My father would have never done that. My father wouldn't have done that.
Okay. But if that's the case, and your brother was named as the beneficiary of those accounts, then perhaps there was undue influence on your brother's part against your father, where he wouldn't understand what he was signing at that point.
No, my father was coherent. My father was up on. My father was very mentally here.
Well, that argument doesn't help you, though.
I understand. I understand what you're saying. I'm not disputing what you're saying, sir. What I'm saying is,
Tommy, you don't think they could coerce him? They could
no.
convince him?
No, my witness here tonight will tell you.
Yeah.
Okay,
absolutely not.
But if there was no coercion, and presumably then your brother had gotten the beneficiary forms named your brother the beneficiary, which that argument doesn't really help you too much, then that's outside the probate court. The only asset of the estate would presumably just be the homestead property, which eventually would pass to the four of you as the heirs at law under Florida law. So
Correct.
The probate, there's really no reason for the probate to be open longer than a year. Once the homestead property is transferred out, that's it. Because no creditors are entitled to any assets from the homestead unless there's a mortgage on the property or some sort of lien put on there by a construction company or the IRS or something like that.
Both happened.
Okay,
yes.
So those are all cases. They were creditors then. So then if you guys had gotten a homestead order and were then deemed the owners, the four of you would then have to agree on selling it. So I guess that was another issue. None of you agreed on being able to sell the property, or was there just no?
I sold the house 4 times.
Yeah, but you couldn't sell it. You can't sell it alone.
Well, I shouldn't say that. Let me rephrase that. I brought buyers to my probate attorney to work through the probate process to do whatever we needed to do to get the probate resolved, whether it was selling the house,
but you couldn't do that. That's my point.
I understand. Again, I'm not an attorney.
Yeah.
I'm just sharing my experience with you. So I don't know if it was right or wrong. I have no idea, right?
Yeah.
I'm learning as I go. And so I was doing what I was told by Stephen Rubino, my attorney, and throughout the process, I did exactly what he told me. He told me, get a real estate attorney, get a real estate agent, and you got to sell the house. So that's what I did. I called Keller Williams, and a real estate attorney, a realtor came in, and I brought the buyer to the realtor, and they were selling the house with contingencies that the attorney, probate attorney, and the probate judge were going to sign off about the sale of the house, the price and the conditions and everything. And so all I saw my role was just to paperwork, file paperwork and let everybody know what was happening.
But your siblings would have had to sign off on that listing agreement. Otherwise, it's not a valid agreement.
Yeah, that's fine. We never got to it because here, what happens is the buyer immediately takes a lien out from my father's house and puts a lawsuit against me after he breached the contract. So
but my whole point is your real estate agent never should have even gotten that far. Knowing that it was homestead property, it was only a valid agreement once the four of you actually signed the listing agreement.
Now, I was told that it came out of homestead because he was dead over a year.
No, doesn't work that way.
That's what the county told me. I called the county, the tax collector's office, and the woman, I have her emails, and I don't remember her name, but she told me.
You're doing. There's two different things you're talking about. Homestead for tax purposes is what you're referring to. That's tax purposes. Homestead for descending purposes under an estate, that continues on. In an intestate estate, it goes to the heirs at law under Florida law, which in your case would have been the 4 children. Now, was just the 4 children? Were there any deceased kids, or is it just the 4 of you?
No, it's just the 4 of us.
Okay, so the 4 of you became equal owners of that property.
That's fine, yeah.
Which meant that any real estate agent should have been aware that all 4 of you had to sign a valid listing agreement. Otherwise, it wasn't a valid listing agreement. So that was another area that they kind of screwed you up on, Tommy, is that a lot of the real estate agents and brokers are not aware of the laws that they need to, and they can't just go ahead and promise you they're going to sell the property when they can't even do so. You would have had to have all 4 of you involved in that process, which
and
probably
wasn't. And I don't know this for a fact. I don't know this for a fact, right? Here's the problem. My siblings were not willing to communicate with me. Now, my siblings and I were very friendly up until my father died. So I don't know why, but they decided they no longer wanted to talk to me. So the communication, they severed the communication immediately. And I didn't know why. So what winds up happening is I'm just reporting to my attorney, right? And I say, Stephen Rubino, Maria, your cousin is telling me that you're a probate lawyer. Okay. So then Maria, his cousin, tells me, listen, I have a buyer for the house. So I call Stephen Rubino. Stephen, Maria, your cousin's telling me that She has a buyer. How do we do this? So he says, get in the contract. I said, where do I get a contract? He says, Google it. Google a Florida a real estate contract, general. So I do it, right? I go into contract with the buyer.
That's the whole point. That's the whole point. It's not a valid contract.
Well, that's for my attorney.
Well, then your attorney completely advised you wrong. I don't know if
I believe so.
So basically, here's the thing. What should have happened is the homestead order should have been issued. If your siblings were not responding to you at all, then you should have reached out to a real estate attorney just to handle a partition action that would have allowed that house. I actually reached out to
the court.
Well, that would have been another court. That would not have been the probate court. Okay, once it was out of the probate's estate, it would go into you directly, you and your three other siblings.
Okay.
So then at that point, if they were not responding to you and you were trying to sell it and this house was potentially going to foreclosure. And by the way, I've got experience with this because I had a similar situation where two estates simultaneously owned a house here on the East Coast. And we were trying to sell this property. However, the other side, the other estate wasn't conversing with us whatsoever. So we got to the point where we had a foreclosure as well. And basically, I think it's kind of the same situation you're in right now. The money is being held probably with the clerk, or the balance is held with the clerk in your case in Lee County, which now is that the situation? The money, the balance?
No, the bank was paid off. The funds, the auction closed at almost the exact price of the house.
Okay, but the balance of the funds after the bank was paid, is that being held in Lee County?
There is none.
Clerk?
It's $0.
Okay, zero money. Okay, well then
it's almost like I said.
Okay, besides this house, then what other assets are there?
From just
that are subject to probate.
Well, okay, that's it.
Then there is no accounting. If you're gonna have zeros across the board, there's no reason for this estate to remain open. I know you'd mentioned some other issues involving, possible problems with someone coming after, possibly doing wrong to your father and murdering him, perhaps. But that is not part of the probate court, unless you are going to file a lawsuit against a certain individual who may have been responsible for that and going after him individually. That would be the only reason to bring an action. However, that would have to be brought by the estate, whoever the personal representative is, not you individually.
Right. Well, either way, I was the personal representative at the time, and now there is no personal representative because they refused to assign one from Lee County Court.
Have you reached out to a personal injury or a wrongful death attorney?
Yes, sir.
I'm assuming you have. Yeah. Okay. And what have you been told? What have you been told on that?
We're busy. Your case is too big. It's too complicated. Every excuse in the book. I call thousands of attorneys. Thousands.
So I'm going to give you a little hint. The way it works with a lot of those attorneys, and Riscalla and I know quite a few of these kinds of attorneys. If they don't see an easy payday, they're not interested.
Exactly.
They want to see that there's going to be a median $1 million coming in, so they can get their 33 or 33 and a third or 40%. And their easy money coming in. If they don't see that, they're not taking the case. So,
and is that why you become a lawyer? Is that why you become a lawyer?
Well, not me.
I'm just curious. I'm just curious.
I'm not driving.
But then I want the job. I want the job. If it's easy money and I don't have to do anything, hire me.
That's another area of law, Tommy. I can't really. I don't make that kind of money, so I couldn't relate. So.
Yeah, that's the wrong excuse for me. I'm sorry.
I can tell you this, Tommy. He wouldn't be my friend if he was that kind of guy.
I know. I'm not referring to him, Stephen. Right. But that's the general consensus.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, I could say names, but I'm not gonna. It's not your friend.
It's a very difficult situation, obviously. You brought up a lot of different.
It's really
issues.
not.
Well, as far as
really
getting, well, you have to do a lot of proof in order to show there was murder involved and be able to go after an estate that had money. All right, that's your only reason for keeping the probate opened.
I'm not in it for money.
There is no assets. There's no other assets.
And
if there were any creditors, there's nothing for them to come after. Basically, even if there's $1 million of creditors, there's zero money right now to go after. So
here's the problem. What happened is that there is a bunch of actors, conspirators, who have an agenda to get my father's house to foreclosure. In that agenda is where I have the probate, the foreclosure, and this breach of contract lawsuit against me that clouds my father's estate for me selling that, or anybody else selling my father's house for 2.5 years. When it turns out that the contract, the complaint is fraudulent, it's in a non-jurisdictional case. It's a no subject matter jurisdiction in Lee County, Florida. Judge James Shenko is overseeing this case that has no subject matter jurisdiction. And so that clouds the estate for 2.5 years. So there's why the house was in foreclosure. So there's an agenda that happened.
Well, there wasn't a foreclosure because no one was paying for it. I mean, you can minimize the foreclosure risk by having someone continue to make certain payments on it.
Correct.
All right.
Correct.
So
but
it wasn't just the case itself that prevented that. It was just a failure to pay. So
yeah, well, I couldn't afford to take on another mortgage. I have my own mortgage that I'm paying. And so my brothers and sisters from day one made it very clear they were not going to participate or help me in any way, form, or fashion, which I don't understand, because if we're all splitting 25%, why would you not want to get to the table and work this out?
What was the equity in that property?
There was, all right, it sold for $240, maybe about $250,000.
Okay, so 60,000 each, or give or take, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was enough for them to consider doing it. So
well, they didn't need it. They told me.
Well, there's things that could have been done, though. Did they
exactly?
Did your attorney ever explain to you that the probate could have been completed and they could have done a disclaimer or sign a deed over to you? That would have avoided all this bullshit.
No.
You could have sold it yourself as the sole owner of the house.
Yeah. Well, my attorney is my twin brother's baby's mama's cousin. So they're all in the same, they're all together up there.
Wow.
They're all together in New York. I'm down here in Florida with my father.
My cousin's brothers, dogs, friends. Yeah.
You think
my cousin Vinny.
Utes. We're the Utes.
You gotta laugh. You gotta laugh. My point is that they're all up in New York, talking and working things out. I'm here alone in Florida with my dead father. So there's a lot of people against me. So they're able to narrate and make things happen in their favor as opposed to I am.
But there isn't. But my point is, at this time, since the property's been sold, there's no other monies there.
No.
And as long, if there's no other money. No, but here's my point. If you're not going to bring a case against a certain individual or parties that have money, so that the state can go after an individual's responsibility for your father's death in a wrongful death claim, then there's no reason to keep this estate open.
I'm doing that. I'm going into putting claims in for wrongful death now at this point.
Yeah, but you have to have an attorney. You have to have an attorney represent you.
Okay. Well, from what I understand, I have some cases in the federal court here in Pensacola. And I've been submitting these complaints, and I'm just being honest with you. I'm just seeing what I can and cannot do, because I can't get an attorney who's willing to take this case. I've tried for years. So what do I do at this point? I have to try something.
Let it go.
I can't let it go.
There's nothing. You're not going to get a result at this point. I'm being perfectly
that's not the
honest.
answer for me. I'm sorry. I respect you, but that's not the answer for me. Maybe somebody else, but not me.
Okay.
I'm not going to let it go.
Try to mitigate the damages and whatnot. I'm trying to come up with and I'm trying to give you what the best honest answer I could possibly give.
And I appreciate it.
So,
and I appreciate that very much.
Have you looked into pro bono attorneys? Are there any pro bono attorneys out there? I'm assuming you have.
I have.
Okay.
Here, when it's supposed to happen, it will happen. In the meantime, I'm just telling my story, and I'm just gathering evidence, and I'm just making sure that people, that the public, as much as I can, make people aware so it doesn't happen to them, so that they can have the knowledge beforehand. Because if I had the knowledge beforehand, this wouldn't be happening.
Well, the knowledge would have been, your father had
set it up properly.
Done a will or a trust.
He did. He had a will.
The documents properly. If he was,
he had a will.
What happened to it though? What happened to it though?
That's a question for Stephen Pepe. I mean, you're asking me.
Did you have a copy? Do you have a copy that of maybe not the original, but
No,
did you have a
sir.
copy?
Do you
No,
have any
sir.
idea what
Okay.
it said?
Yes, I read
Was
the
it
will
red?
several
Was it?
times, and my witness who's here heard my father say for many years.
That's not sufficient, though.
I understand it's
Unfortunately.
hearsay. I'm just, sir, I understand it's hearsay. I know it's not for the court, but we're talking amongst us. And so
Yeah.
all I'm simply saying is that somebody else heard him say, don't even tell your siblings I died. I mean, that's how adamant he was. So when you ask me a question, did your father possibly change his mind? I'm very confident in saying no, because I was close to him until the day he died. And he was very coherent. I mean, he was moving into my home in 2021. So he was by the book, my father. If my father said A, that's it. It never changed for me because he had epilepsy. So he wasn't wishy-washy. When he made a decision, that was it. That was his decision because he turned it over a million times already before he made that decision. So and the bank even verifies that I was the only named beneficiary on his accounts. I was named beneficiary on his life insurance, his checking accounts, and the IRA accounts that supposedly Stephen Pepe has.
When
I don't know.
when were you named from you recall? At what point did that change? Was it just right before?
Well, when I became administrator, that's when I found out that I was even named a beneficiary. My father never discussed that stuff with me. All he said was the will. And I read the will with my stepmother before she died. And so he never said, hey, I'm going to name you beneficiary. Only thing he said to me was, listen, I'm going to put you on the life insurance policy. It's not a lot. He said, but would you do me a favor when I die? See that Mitchell gets it. That was his grandson. Because Mitchell was active in his life at a very young age. So I said, sure, I'll make sure Mitchell gets it. Mitchell's my godson, my older brother's son, who just recently committed suicide, my older brother. So,
Oh,
yeah, Stephen. But
So
anyway, so
okay, so it
that,
wasn't your father's intention to leave. It wasn't your father's intention, from what you heard, even to leave them anything. Is that correct?
no, in fact, he told me, and I saw it, he left them $1 each. Because he told me it's New York, it's Florida law. You cannot disinherit your children. You have to leave them something.
Well,
And
that's
so
not true either. But my
that's what he
point is,
told me.
I go back to the argument that I was making earlier. You actually would have a much better argument saying that there was undue influence on there, because
I'm
if you
not trying to argue anything, honestly.
no, I'm for your if in order for you to challenge how that payout was done, that's the only way you're going to be able to do it, is to
Well,
argue.
here, Judge Laboda has a beneficiaries hearing where she's naming beneficiaries. She names the beneficiaries in my father's estate, and I'm not privy to the hearing. I was not invited. And wait, I'm in that hearing. I'm named an AKA, while Stephen, Linda, and Michael are named beneficiaries. Of what? What were they named beneficiary was? I have no idea. I don't get a chance to see that because now the file is closed. They make it non-public. I can't view it. So,
what?
but she
What?
recuses herself.
If you attempted to go, if they were holding a meeting and discussing all of this, and you attempted to enter the meeting, they wouldn't let you in physically.
Well, I didn't even know there was a hearing.
Oh, okay.
So you get it in order to get to a hearing, Stephen. They send you an email, right? The court, and it comes with a certificate of service. I didn't find out till months later that they had this hearing.
So how can that?
How
I
could
don't
that
know
be?
how that can be legitimate. Then I don't know. I don't know enough about the law to
And
make
usually there's proof of service. There's usually like some sort of certified mail or whatnot that they use as a slip to show they attempted, or something was done on that end. And supposedly they would have had to serve some sort of proof of service with the court to show that was
Correct.
the place.
Correct. I was not present at the hearing. I had no knowledge of that hearing. So I don't know how that had transpired, but it's part of the docket. It's part of the docket.
Eric, the email that he got, would that be proof
I
of
didn't
service?
get an email, Stephen.
I thought
I
you said
should
you got
have.
an huh?
I should have received an email if there was a hearing. I would have thought the
Yeah, but
judge.
I'm saying
The problem is, though, with emails sometimes, unless there's some sort of thing where that you can show that the actual receipt on the email. That's why I almost never use emails. I always do certified mailings, those green slips, USPS.
Yes, I do too.
So how did you find out about the hearing then?
It's on the dockets in the probate case, but I can't view it.
But a minute ago, a couple of minutes ago, you said something about you got an email with an official seal. That was something else?
No, I never got an email. Okay, what should have happened? Okay, we're talking about this beneficiary.
You got to quit moving around.
Yes, I know my phone is dying, so I'm trying to make sure I don't get cut off. I'm sorry.
Right.
So here's we're talking about beneficiaries, and in the probate case, Elaine C. Laboda, the judge, has a beneficiaries hearing. She's going to name the beneficiaries, right? Or she's going to present who the beneficiaries are.
It doesn't work that way.
Well, it's C21-CP-001212 leeclerk.org. It's in the docket. I mean, I don't know. I'm not an attorney, but it's there. And so she names.
It doesn't sound right. It doesn't.
No, not for an intestate estate. You guys are equal beneficiaries on there. In the event the beneficiary designation forms were not filled out properly and there were no beneficiaries on the IRAs or life insurance or whatnot. On the house, you guys are four-way equal beneficiaries as homestead property anyway. So you can't just mix and match who gets what percentage. It doesn't work that way under law.
Well, that's what occurred. So you're free to view the file.
Now you're in limbo. And Eric, is there something that he can do to request that the case be closed?
No, usually what happens is a case doesn't stay open indefinitely if things are not filed. There's a administratively closing situations. Usually, at least in out here, it's usually about a year. If there's nothing been filed after a year for a case like that, the judges want to clean up their dockets and have fewer cases, so they usually just close out administratively at some point. So a case like this that's been around for 4 years or 4.5 years, usually they will usually not want that around, particularly since there's really not much. And the judge really should be embarrassed that this one is still opened up. There's no reason for that judge to allow that to still stay open at this point, because it should not have been a complicated probate case.
Can he write a letter to whoever the judge is and request that please close the case?
I mean, you can attempt to.
Well, here's my thing, Stephen. At this point, they still haven't addressed my concerns about the criminality. That's
a different issue, Tom.
Correct.
That's what Eric's trying to get to you.
I understand.
Cross this bridge.
From what I understand, they should refer it to. They're supposed to pass it. From what I understand, I'm not an attorney. If there's criminality being brought up in this probate estate, they can't just ignore it. They can't just say,
the probate court doesn't do it, though. It'd have to be the state attorney's office.
Correct.
They felt there was an actual case.
Correct.
But my whole point about the probate, unless you're actually suing someone for causing death, and that will bring money into the estate, there's no reason to keep the probate opened. If you have a problem believe there's a murder and you think there's a case there, that's another issue.
That's right.
But unless you're suing someone, no reason to keep the probate opened.
That's true. Yes, I agree. So if I presented to the judge that there was criminality, she just handles the probate and we don't discuss criminality in that case. So we close the probate and then
I'd be reaching out to the state attorney's office.
I sent the state attorney over 300 emails.
And they have not responded at all?
Never. Not once. The FBI hasn't responded.
Okay. Well, that's going to be
the FBI hasn't responded. Here's the quote I get. Not under our jurisdiction. That's all they say.
So if the state attorney's office is not proceeding, then there will be no criminal action at this point. That's number one. From a civil perspective, do you have a certain individual in mind that has money?
It's my brother and sister. It's Stephen Pepe and Linda Catano and Anthony Catano. Why would Ellen Kahn, my sister-in-law for 2 years, tell me this? Who goes around accusing people of murdering their father and their sister-in-law? And all of a sudden, my older brother, who was part of it as a hush-hush person, he was giving cash not to say anything to anybody, is now dead. Committed suicide.
So what are you alleging that they actually did? Let's get to that.
Well, I'll tell you this. When I asked Ellen Kahn, my brother's 20-year plus girlfriend what happened, because I don't speak to any of them. She calls me and tells me my brother's dead. And I said, oh my God, what happened? He committed suicide. I said, what? She said, yes. I said, how? She said, he stopped taking his medications for his heart. I said, you're kidding me, right? And she said, no. I said, well, that's strange. I said, why would he stop taking his medications to commit suicide? I said, that sounds painful and long. How did he know he was going to die from that? In any event, she didn't do anything. She didn't call anybody. And one day she woke up, he had a heart attack and died. Okay, so she rushed him to the hospital to try to save his life. And I called the hospital and they verified that he died on the way or at her house, and he's dead. So
your brother,
my
are you talking
brother,
about?
my older brother.
Okay.
So my older brother's dead. When I'm talking to her, I asked her, was there an autopsy? And she said, the response was too late. And at that point, I didn't know what to say. And
what is too late? What does too late mean?
Thank you. What does too late mean, Stephen?
Yeah.
I've never heard a response like that.
So this was within days of you knowing that he had passed
This
away?
was 3 days after or 2 days after he died. And my friend Ted was here. He heard the whole conversation.
Yeah. That's still nowhere near too late.
I know. Well, she cremated him already.
Oh, gee.
Your brother,
Same
but
thing
I
with
thought
my
we were talking
father.
about your father.
Same thing with my father, Stephen. It's weird.
Okay, but what are you saying they did to your father? Let's get there. I mean, I'm more about cutting through the.
Here's what Ellen Kahn tells me. Ellen Kahn, in detail, tells me Stephen Pepe, Linda Catano, and Anthony Catano. Stephen Pepe is my twin brother. Linda Catano is my older sister, who is Michael's twin sister. My parents had 2 sets of twins. Fed my father rat poison. My father dropped dead is the word she uses. And that's when they went in, robbed him. They cleaned his computer out clean. They did all kinds of things. They got rid of everything. That's what Ellen Kahn tells me. Now, I had a private investigator. So I hired a private investigator to help me sort through this. And my private investigator tells me that something very, very odd happened. He didn't get to the bottom of it. But what he did say was, I spoke to Michael Pepe, and he was the oddest person interview I've ever had in 30 years. Al Perez in Fort Myers was my private investigator. And I said, what do you mean by that? And he says, well, the only thing he wanted to know was if anyone received money for a murder, would they go to jail if they found out that they were paid hush money? And my private investigator told my brother, anything over $500 in Florida is a felony. Yeah, you'd go to jail. So my private investigator told me that. And I said, well, that's kind of odd that he's, how come anybody's talking about money around my father's death? Like, how come nobody's saying, gee, poor dad? Like, what? It was weird. Very, very weird. So with that, Ellen Kahn for 2 years tells me that they did this. Why would Ellen Kahn say that? Why? What is Ellen Kahn's motive for saying these things? Now, Michael Pepe is my main witness to things. If something did really happen, Stephen, like Ellen says, and all of a sudden Michael Pepe's dead. It's odd.
Well, in my perception of what's happening, I think you need to finish the probation thing, close that out. Correct me if I'm mistaken.
Probation, he said, I know.
I mean the probate. I apologize.
You don't have to.
Finish that out, and then you need to, if you want to pursue it, then you should go and pursue civil matter. Civil would be correct, Eric. Is that right? Civil?
Well, because the state attorney's offices want to proceed with anything, so there's no criminal there. I mean, as we learned with OJ, you could still get by on an actual criminal murder case, and the other side may still be awarded civil damages. So that still would be an option, provided there's some sort of preponderance of the evidence, I guess. I mean, I'm not a litigation attorney, so I wouldn't know all the standards at this point, but something that you really would want to have someone that is experienced in those areas.
I'm saying civil because he says he reported it to the state attorney, and the attorney said, no, we're not going to do anything. So, I mean, from what I'm hearing, it sounds like the state attorney, either he's crooked or there's just not enough evidence. There's not enough evidence to do anything. So criminally, he's not going to be able to go after them. But civilly, I think, is that the right way? I think in civil court he can go after it. Am I mistaken? Because I think you can sue anybody for anything any day now, right? No faults?
Yeah.
Eric, did I lose you?
Certain standards. So
say it again. You broke up.
There's still going to be standards that he has to meet to show, kind of like what the Goldmans and Nicole Simpson's family did in proving OJ and getting damages against him, which, who knows if they even got anything ever. I don't think
they never got a penny.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, that's the kind of thing you're dealing with here. You still may get a judgment, but it may be for naught in that end.
That's right.
So,
here, for me, it's more about doing the right thing in my father's death. The money, it doesn't mean anything to me. It's about doing the right thing to honor my father. That's all it is. And it could have been resolved very easily. I mean, my father was a simple man. He lived by himself, 84 years old. He didn't bother a soul. So all this complication in his death doesn't sit well with me at all, because I was very close to him. I was extremely close to him.
Do you feel that closing the probate now would be a disservice to your dad?
Yes.
And why do you feel that? Because it wasn't settled properly?
That's right. Number one, it wasn't settled properly because here, the probate court is going to close a probate case that they helped facilitate criminality in. Come on.
It's kind of like trying to, climb a wall 90 degrees without any help of any kind.
That's right.
It's almost useless at this point.
But if you're not going to sue your brother and sister-in-law and all that directly, then
I am.
Well, where's the case?
They're in the federal court. They're in the federal court in Pensacola. I just started submitting cases to them, my claims, about 2 weeks ago. And so, yes, I'm in the process of doing that, sir.
So that keeps the probate open? Am I right? Eric?
Well, realistically, it depends on where the funds would come in directly. I mean, usually in cases like this, it might go directly to beneficiaries. When I've opened up cases in personal injury matters before, it often is set up where it's going directly to the beneficiaries. And once the estate's opened, there's really no point of keeping it open. It's just there for the initial complaint. But you're not even the personal representative of the estate. So you couldn't even bring an action on behalf of the estate as it is. So you're not really accomplishing anything by keeping the probate opened. Does that make sense? You'd have to be in charge of the estate to bring an action in that kind of case.
I'm not sure what you mean by open. Well, open, okay. Open
means the judge has not closed it out officially and had a personal representative discharged. That's where it's open and the state is actually opened.
Doesn't the probate judge have to administer someone to do that? Another administrator, a personal administrator to do that?
Well, if no one is appointed, then they'll usually appoint a curator, which is basically an outsider, like another attorney or a retired judge. But their job is at some point to wrap it up. Because like I said before, they don't want to keep estates open indefinitely. They want to clear the dockets.
So why haven't they done that?
I have no idea.
It's a good question.
That's my legal opinion. No idea.
You're the attorney.
Why.
Come on, Eric.
No idea, Tommy.
Oh, well, there you go.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me. But certain jurisdictions, I don't do a lot with Lee County, so
here
judges are a little different. So
I watched Judge Judy for 20 years, and here's what she says: if it doesn't make sense, it's not true. And you just said it doesn't make sense. So none of this is true, is what I'm saying. In the probate court.
If it doesn't fit, you got to acquit.
That's right. But I'm not acquitting because it's my father. I want to be very clear. I'm not quitting. It's my father.
So, but I'm not clear about the probate remaining open. Is it because you plan on suing? Is that why it's going to remain open? No,
it's because the judges won't close it. The judge is not doing anything. I mean,
you're saying it's because the judge won't. In your mind now, because I'm not sure if I understand completely.
It doesn't really matter to me, Stephen.
If the judge said to you, Tom, we're closing this probate, would that
Right.
be acceptable?
Well, I would say, Your Honor, am I going to get a final accounting, or what?
There's no
What
final
steps?
accounting though when there's zero assets. That's my point. It's
I
zeros
understand that,
across
but
the
that should
board.
be formally done, shouldn't
Well, if no one is serving, I mean, you can get a curator, I suppose. I'm going to go on as we speak.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on the Lee County Court website.
LeeClerk.org.
Yes, I'm on it right now. I'm about to
Case
do a.
number 21.
Hold on. Let's get my.
Excuse me.
20. Hold on.
21
21
CP -001212. Excuse me. I can't breathe.
Okay. Let's see what we get here.
Maybe you, as an attorney, can read some of those dockets. I cannot view them anymore.
Well, you can go on public records. It's the case on Lee County. They should be able to be pulled up.
It should go to Matrix, I was told. Matrix Lee County or something, automatically direct me there, but it does, but it still doesn't allow me to view any of the dockets anymore. I was told because it's 2 weeks from when they put them up. So that's okay.
Let me do another one if you don't mind, because for some reason this way it is not pulling up. Let's can I have your father's name?
Eugene, Eugene, Pepe, Pepe.
Okay. I don't know. Let me see what I can pull up on that.
Oh, it might not be coming up anymore because the other cases are not coming up either. I tried to do it the other day.
Interesting. This is Lee County, Florida, not pulling up either. Let's see.
Yeah, I know.
All right. Well, while you guys are talking, let me continue doing a search.
Yeah, okay.
And
so you said that the cases aren't there anymore, Tommy. Are you saying that there was a case at one time and it's no longer there?
Yes. There's two cases. Excuse me. There's two cases that are no longer visible to me. That's the 21-CP-0012, and then there's the non-jurisdictional case 22-CA-003265. So those two cases have no longer viewable in leeclerk.org. The foreclosure matter 22-CA-004118 is still viewable. And so a lot of the dockets that are in the probate and that non-jurisdictional case are in the 4118 case. So that's the case that I've been getting my evidence from and supporting dockets to draw my lawsuits. They'll probably shut it down tonight now that I said that. But I already made all PDFs for them. So it doesn't matter.
You have physically filed the lawsuits?
Yes. Against 7 judges.
And what about your siblings? Anything against your
They're
siblings?
going in Monday. They're going in Monday.
All right, so I'm able to get on finally through your name, actually, Tom. It was easier that way for some reason. I don't know. Right. So the initial case was open April 2021. Went through on and on and on and a bunch of stuff here, claims and things of that nature. Let me go to where it stands right now. God, there's a long docket here.
There's over 800.
Well, it's 235. There's some
but there's 4 cases.
There were the probate case itself.
Yes,
it looks like the last filings were in August 2024. I can't see what it is. What is that exactly?
That's me telling the probate court about the fraud in the foreclosure matter. That the auction is fraudulent, that the title that they're receiving, the person who bought the house is receiving a title that I did not sign. So I don't know how they gave them title, but whatever.
Well, I've noticed this. Okay. So in February of 2024, there was a homestead petition that was filed, but I don't see any homestead order that was ever issued. Why is that?
There is an order, actually. The Judge Fuller actually agrees. There's a docket that Judge Fuller.
Not in this case, though. I'm on the case right now. I don't
Well, it might have been in the foreclosure. Hold on, let me think about that.
This is for the probate, though. The
Right.
probate
Okay. In
has
the
a homestead
here's
order.
what they do. Here's what they do. They ask a question in one matter, but then they answer it in another. So it's very confusing. So it was actually addressed in the foreclosure matter. The probate matter, you're not going to see the docket there because they don't post it there.
Okay, so the foreclosure matter, is it emigrant mortgage? Is that the case?
The case is 22-CA-0041118.
Okay, I see that right now.
Yeah. So in there, you'll see a docket, homestead petition again for Michael Pepe. Michael Pepe is the one that asked for that. And I called the court on that petition, and the court told me that the house is no longer in homestead because my father is not paying the mortgage. So
no, like I said, you're separating two things. But when you mention a homestead, you're talking about taxes. Okay, that's nothing to do with this.
That's what I would know homestead under, because homestead is based on your taxes.
Homestead means several things. It means what happens to the property when you die, if you're married or you got descendants. It's property taxes, like what you're talking about. It's also creditors. If from forced sale, you can't have a forced sale from creditors. But there's various things with homestead.
Well, I spoke about all the areas with it. I spoke about the taxes. I spoke about whose the house belongs to now, since they told me it was out of homestead, and they told me it's under unknown heirs. But
okay, so nothing has been filed. Okay, so I'm looking at the docket for the foreclosure case. The last thing that was filed was in August 2024, probably by you as well.
Yeah.
And I can pull up what you filed. It looks like I can click on it.
Yes, you should be able to read anything in 4118. You can read, and pretty much I try to distribute it to every single matter so that everybody knew what was happening, and nobody ever.
No, it looks like
nobody acknowledged anything.
Yeah, this is nothing has happened on this. There's no homestead order. This case, there's nothing going on in this case.
It was a foreclosure. It already happened.
Well, no, the case is still open though.
Oh, that's weird. I thought it's closed. It looks as it's the other day. It said.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're correct. It says disposed.
There
but
you go.
There's a filing. That must have just been you. Your messages, I guess.
Yes, I was just documenting everything that I noticed to the court.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, I don't really know if, in my personal opinion, there should have been a homestead order in the probate court, which divides the property into four.
When should that have happened?
That should have happened probably within the first year of the probate.
Who would facilitate that?
First of all, whoever would have been appointed personal representative, which would have been you originally, correct? Okay. So in order to get a homestead order in most jurisdictions in Florida, the first thing you do is you got to get through the creditor period, which in Florida is 3 months from the date of first publication.
Okay.
You go through all that. Were there any other known creditors that he had?
He had his mortgage.
Hospital bills or anything like that?
Well, he's a veteran, so he got all his bills taken care of. But maybe some credit cards, a credit card here and there.
So credit cards, usually we serve them, we get to the process, but they're not going to get a dime, basically.
Right.
That's usually how it works.
Correct.
So once that process is complete, then the court can be petitioned for a homestead order, which would have divided the property to four of you. I mean, I do this all the time.
Yeah,
this
and
is the
I
kind of thing
understand
that would have been done maybe within 5-6 months of the estate being opened. So
you as an attorney would have said to me, "Hey, Tom, you got to do a homestead."
No, it wouldn't have been you doing it. It would have been your attorney doing it.
Well, yeah, I said you. If you were my attorney,
yes.
If you were my attorney, Eric, and you're doing this probate for me, you would have said to me, "Hey, Thomas, you got to do homestead, right?"
I would have done it for you. I would have gotten a petition.
Okay.
You would have signed it. We would have filed it, served everybody, and then eventually, after a couple months, we would have had you as the order issuing it 4 ways to you and your siblings.
Okay.
From there, if there's no agreement on selling it, what I would have suggested is, Tom, I'm going to refer you to another attorney to do a partition in this matter to try to get this sold, because now it's outside the probate jurisdiction at that point. So unfortunately, you wish your attorney had done that because it probably would have saved you a lot of aggravation and the BS that you're going through right now.
Well, as my attorney then, he did not properly advise me.
And I'm, like I said, not being there. Well, I'm not one for filing complaints against other attorneys.
I did it. I filed it already.
Okay,
and you know what the Florida bar told me?
What's that?
He did nothing unethical. Come on, please, police on the police. Eric, you're gonna have a hard time convincing me.
This was his area of law, Tom?
I'm sorry? Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
so
sir. He's a probate attorney and a real estate attorney.
Okay.
And he has a title company to accept the escrow deposits.
Okay.
Come on.
Well,
yeah,
I'm sorry all this happened. I mean, you seem like, you're very passionate. I mean, Riscalla and I can both, understand the frustration you have in this. Just, you've basically been guided in the wrong direction on many different
by everybody. By everyone, including the judges. And so, Eric, you're right. I am passionate because what if it was your dad?
Well, he would have had a good attorney. So
and you know what? I believe that.
Yes,
Eric,
yes,
I can see that. I totally can see that in you because I know what happened. And when you're answering me, yes, you're right. Everything you say is correct. But none of that happened in my case. And and if you're an attorney, right, you go to the same, you kind of have the same laws in Florida for probation. Correct. Then I would expect the attorney that I hired would have had the same knowledge to guide me properly because I don't know the laws.
Correct.
I know them now.
Correct.
Right. And the other thing is this, when someone is taken from you, it's a very different feeling from when they pass away. It's a very different feeling. And so that's where you see my passion because you take it from me.
Of course.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, my friends, I've got to bid you adieu. Tommy, I wish there was more we could do, but unfortunately, I just pray that you're able to get some resolution to this.
My faith tells me it will happen. It will happen. When it's supposed to happen, it will happen.
Amen.
All right, gentlemen. Best of luck to all of you.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you so much, Eric. If you change your mind and you want to represent me.
Nah, I think it's a little beyond what I can do on this one.
There you go, Stephen. That's what everybody says. Too complicated for me.
Well, I would also be suggesting to you, Tommy, though, I'd be closing out the probate and then trying to get you someone to handle a civil criminal case first. And if they have to reopen the estate from there, so be it. But you're not even in charge of the estate as it is. So
that's right.
I would proceed in that direction if So
I agree.
All right, gentlemen.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, Eric.
All right.
Appreciate it. All right, I'm gonna take a quick break. I want to refill my cup. It's already empty.
Yeah, my cup is full.
We'll be back in a minute. We'll get some more updates on what the latest and greatest is. So don't go away.
What a nice guy. What a nice guy.
Here we go.
Yay.
You're listening to the Red Pill Reality Show. We'll be right back.
Check the red pill, check the blue pill, check the red pill.
I just can't help myself. I keep falling deeper and deeper in love. Every day. Every night. It gets harder. I just can't stop thinking. I keep on falling. I keep on falling. Love with you. Sometimes I love.
Breaking news. Lisa Marie. We're falling in love right here on Celebrity Records. Lisa Marie.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
We have ignition. Strap in. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Quiet, numbskulls. I'm broadcasting.
We're back. Hope you didn't go too far, because we have more interesting and thought-provoking information for you coming up on the Red Pill Reality Show.
All right. Thanks for hanging in there, you guys. I greatly appreciate it. Let me bring Tommy back on. And we'll bring Ted back up. We haven't heard from Ted.
Not yet.
You've been awful quiet back there, Ted.
I'm still here. I've just been quiet.
Hey, Ted.
What can you add it to this this little fiasco?
Well, I mean, I just know. I mean, I've known Tommy for 10 years now, and I know him and his dad were always very close. I mean, I knew a couple. I knew his sister and sister-in-law. And Ellen, so I met a few of his relatives, but I know they never had anything to do with his dad. You know, he always talked to his dad a lot. He always had him on speaker, so I heard most of their conversations. And I still remember, like, when he found out his father did pass away, when he went down there to the house. I remember he called me immediately saying something doesn't look right. You know, the mail was missing. He said things were changed around the house, which, you know, he just said things just seemed off. Like, it almost seemed to me like somebody had been there before he got there, when he was the only one that was supposed to know, because it's kind of like his siblings, you know, had nothing to do with his dad, but then here they all come once he passes away, which seems to me just, you know, rather strange in my opinion.
Can I say something real quick? Because you just made me think of something. When you say that, you just reminded me of when Ellen tells me, and you heard when she tells us that my sister called Michael, my brother, on December 29th and said, Daddy passed away, and she was hysterical crying. And Michael said to her, what the hell are you crying about? You couldn't stand him, right? The detective didn't call me till the 30th. December 30th. So how does Linda call Michael on the 29th in New York to say they even got the dates wrong? Like, they're telling everybody he's dead, and he's not even announced that he's dead. The sheriff wasn't called yet.
And even when he was there, he told me there was a realtor at the property already when Tommy got there, which, you know, that's like, why would a realtor be at that house already?
You have presented this to the state attorney, all this evidence that you have, and they said no.
Roger Hamburg. I sent Roger Hamburg every single thing, every single docket that we wrote up, explaining line by line exactly what took place.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. I just recently sent.
Let me tell you this while I'm thinking about it. What comes to mind? I don't know if you can do this. Again, I'm ignorant with a lot of this stuff, so I may be wrong with what I'm about to tell you. But
I doubt it.
I think you can petition a judge for a grand jury. I think.
Here's my thought. Because I have a case from the buyer who accuses me of breaching the contract in the federal court, in which he's losing tremendously. My cases here in Pensacola are suddenly being transferred to that court, the judges. So what I'm thinking is that the federal judges have jurisdiction in Fort Myers over all the judges in my cases. And I'm thinking that we're going to trial. Mm-hmm. We're going to trial for libel and slander against me. Right? But the reason I'm starting my cases now is because the buyer just recently asked to dismiss the case without prejudice.
Because he was losing.
Yeah. And the judge denied it and said,
so again, not to be redundant, but I think I would look into seeing if you have the right to petition a judge and ask for a grand jury. So here's what I've learned. I've had a couple of people, I did a couple of shows about grand juries. If you can get a grand jury, they have unlimited access. They get whatever they want. They can ask for anything, and if they don't get it, there's prison time, there's jail time involved. Okay,
I know.
So my only question is, I don't know if you have, if us as citizens have that right. I think from what you've presented verbally tonight, there seems to be enough evidence to at least raise some questions where somebody started asking, how, for example, how did your sister, I think it was your sister-in-law, know a day before before you were told that your dad passed away? How did she know that if nobody contacted her, right? That's a big question to me. I would imagine to somebody who really wants to get down to the bottom of things went on. How did she know? Let's call the police department. Did anybody from the police department talk to her? No.
I did that.
You know?
I did that work.
I think that, I hope I'm right. If you could get a grand jury, see, because they have unlimited access. They can get whatever they want. They can demand whatever they need.
That is a huge piece of gold there, because in my process, I never thought that I could petition for that, which would absolutely, right, if I was able to present my evidence to the judge who could present it to a grand jury, which I thought I was doing in the probate case. It was petitioning these judges to, hey, listen, you should really present this to a state attorney, to grand jury, because these are the questions that, these are the incidents that happen, but it never happens, right? So at this point, that makes total sense and seems like the best route to go, so that criminally to finally resolve the criminality, because my father deserves that much.
See if I can get my friend to tell me whether I'm right or wrong. He used to do grand juries. Let's see if I can. I send him. I don't even know if he's in the States right now. He travels all over the world.
I think
I'll send him a text and ask him.
Appreciate that.
If you can do that, because I think that if you could do that, that would really answer. They can dig as deep as they need to dig. From what he tells me, they have unlimited access. They can do all kinds of stuff that the police can't do.
Listen, there's a lot of guilt.
Can do.
Stephen, why does my older brother? This is what I'm told by Ellen Kahn. My older brother committed suicide because he received a letter from the FBI. Now, did that really happen? I don't know, because Ellen Kahn seems to say things that maybe are not true. I don't know. I'm not in their life, I can't tell. But my point is this: she's making a lot of accusations. There's a lot of dead bodies around her and my sister and my brother Stephen, and it's all my family, and it's very concerning to me, because when someone dies, there shouldn't be all these questions. They die, it's over. You don't hear from them anymore.
Yeah.
This is almost like my family's graves speaking to me to tell me, you better fight for us. You better do something. You question this, question that, and it's exhausting and it's frustrating. And it shouldn't take 5 years for someone to look at my docket.
Eric was saying typically no more than a year.
Right. Come on.
Typically no more than a year. So something's not right. Clearly, I mean, it's very obvious. Something isn't right. Something
is the corruption that deep?
Huh?
Is the corruption that deep?
Well, from everything that we're seeing, there's a lot of people out there that dislike Trump, and for whatever reason. The one thing that you cannot take away from Trump, if it had not been from Trump, we would not have seen the corruption as deep as it is. We would not have seen it had it not been for somebody like Trump. So after experiencing what they did to Trump, it doesn't surprise me that they would do something similar, parallel, something kind of the same to somebody private. Why not? If it's to serve their personal agenda, right?
And enrich their lives. They enrich their lives,
so
not mine.
Sadly, the corruption in our legal system, from what I see, it's terrible. It really is. It's much, much worse than we can imagine.
It is.
And it's not something that just started. This has been going on for a long time. It's just that it's surfacing. It's becoming more visible now than it was before. And if
because
that's
people
the
are.
case, here's the thing: if that's the
Mhm.
case on your part, and these judges or these attorneys have misled you, and the grand jury gets involved, they will give you the evidence you need to go after these people.
Mhm. Here's the thing, Stephen. I have the evidence. I can present it to the grand jury, but nobody will listen. I mean, I
Well,
don't
that's what I'm
understand
saying.
it.
You gotta first bridge is to see. I'm waiting for him to answer me. I'm hoping he's in the country. You have if you can, yeah, he hasn't answered. To me, if you can petition the judge and say, Judge, Judge, I have evidence that this is wrong play has happened in this blah. Just a quick letter to the guy, and convince him to do a grand jury. I think that would resolve quite a few of the issues that you're having right now,
But here's
because
the
they'll be
problem.
able to, huh?
The judge that I'd be asking is part of the problem.
Well, maybe a different judge. Try a different judge.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I try to get 7 judges to do a sua sponte on a non-jurisdictional case, and do you know what they did? They all
Wait a minute.
ignored
Wait a
me.
minute. 7 judges to do a what?
Sua sponte, which
What
is
is that?
basically looking at a case, a complaint, and determining whether a certain court has jurisdiction over that case or not, based upon diversity, based upon the complaint form, the statutes, the rules of the local court. And I know that when someone puts in a complaint against somebody, um, they have to follow the local rules and the federal rules. Those are what determine jurisdiction in a court. A judge
Mhm.
can easily see that by the complaint. All he's got to do is read one page in the complaint, and he can say, okay, this goes to the civil court, this goes to the federal court. 7 judges, I asked. One sheet, a complaint to please give a determination whether this complaint has jurisdiction in the civil court or it doesn't. And none of them will answer it.
They won't answer, or they've said it's out of our
They will
jurisdiction.
not answer it. They ignore me.
And
And
how?
this
Okay,
case
wait a
is
minute.
in
Wait a
the
minute.
civil court.
How have you sent the request?
Through the docket. The docket's in the court. So
Okay,
we're
so let me
communicating.
make a suggestion. Type out a letter, okay, and get it to send it to what's it called? It's called certified return receipt. So
Yes.
you will have a receipt that they received that letter, and I think by law they have to answer you. And I think, again, I'm speaking out my
That's good question.
where, but I think
No,
it's
that's
like
good
60
advice.
or 90 days that they have to respond to you. And
That's
if they
good
don't,
advice.
they're in default.
Here's the problem. It already brought us to destruction, total destruction, which, listen, if any judge declares sua sponte, which is simply saying, listen, this case should have not been in this civil court. It should have been in the federal court. That's all we need to know. Please make a declaration because I'm not an attorney. But according to the rules, the local and federal, this complaint by Luke Lashkry, the buyer, breach of contract complaint, does not fit the rules under the civil court. Yet Judge James Shenko, is presiding under the case for 2 years under a non-jurisdictional case, according to what I say. So
Yeah.
I'm asking the judges, please declare it, and they won't. But you're right. I need to do a certified letter in writing. Bingo.
Okay, so here's his answer. My question was, can someone petition a judge for a grand jury? He said, for what? And I said, for wrongdoing in a probate case. His answer was, depends on his position. Depends on his position. A district judge can be charged just as those 2 judges were charged for harboring an illegal. So if these judges were, breaking the law, then they could be charged. There are many reasons to judge can be charged. Maybe a judge. There are many reasons a judge can be charged and brought before a grand jury. So I think he thinks that you're going after the judges.
I am.
I wish I. Well,
I certainly am.
You want to get to the bottom of the whole thing, not just the judges.
You better believe it. Yeah, Stephen. There is.
But I think he is under the impression you're going just after the judges. I gotta.
No. I name everybody, and I'm going to be very honest. My own daughter's being named.
So let me.
It is what it is.
This. Can a private individual who has evidence of wrongdoing in a probate case, ask a judge to convene a grand jury? Let's see what he says.
That's a great question. That is such a great question. Yeah, that's a great question. Wow.
So he'll
Stephen,
probably
thank you.
answer me here in a minute. That
That
means
is
he's
a great
probably
question
in the States.
because
in what little that I do know, to me it would be probably the most powerful thing on your behalf.
No, sir.
Because
Yes,
there's no
sir.
hiding, you know.
That's right.
There's no hiding.
That's what I'm
If you
saying.
get a
That is
grand
such
jury involved, it's like I said before, there's no bottom. They can dig and dig
the
and dig
game's
in
over.
whatever direction they need. It doesn't have to. For example, let's just say it opens up under the probation thing that you were wrong done on the probation thing, and as they look in the probation thing, they start asking questions. Well, how did his sister-in-law know a day before him? You know,
Thank
that's
you.
what I'm
Thank you.
saying. It's not limited to one thing.
My case is intertwined.
Like a shotgun, you know, with birdshot. It's just a widespread, you know, kind of thing.
It's the smoking gun. It's the smoking gun.
District attorney first. Yeah, but what? Okay, so is there any way to circumvent the district attorney? He feels that the district attorney is not in his favor. Yeah, let's see what he says. I should get him to just call in.
This district attorney never responds to anything that I submit to him. Roger Hamburg.
Do you want to call in? We'll see if he's been involved in several grand juries and
that's amazing.
I learned a little bit about grand juries from him.
That's the answer. Even that is the answer. That is so key to get me on the map to where I need to go. Yeah. Because here, what will happen is exactly what's happening now. This will just keep going and going and going and going.
Vicious cycle. Yeah.
Yes, and Eric, I respect Eric. However, he said some key things that would keep this going and going and going and going.
You got to understand with Eric, though, he's only limited to the amount of time that he heard.
Correct.
What was going on.
Correct. And I agree. I agree with that. And I can only make a judgment based on the time, right? That we get. So that's why I said if he's interested to please contact me, because I would like to. I know he's honest, that's for sure. And I would like to see if he can help. But if we can get the grand jury, oh my God, that would be the way to do it.
Come on, phone. My phone's not cooperating.
Is Eric still here? I mean, Ted. Did Ted hang up?
No, I'm still here.
Ted's here. He's just quiet. He's a quiet
Ted. But as Ted was saying, Ted has been in my life for 10 years. And Ted and I live together. So Ted knows everything that happened within this estate. And he can tell you probably better than I. The tribulations. Oh, here we go.
Jerry. Let me turn you up a little bit here so I can say something to me so I can adjust your volume.
Okay, how's that? Better?
That's much better. Can you hear him okay?
Yes, I
Tommy,
can.
Can you hear him? Yep,
Good evening, sir.
Can you hear him? Jerry, can you hear him?
A little bit.
All right, let me turn his volume up a little bit so you can hear him a little better.
Good evening, sir.
There we go. Is that better?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay, so Tommy, this is my friend Jerry. Jerry, this is my friend Tom. You're on the air with us on the Red Pill Reality Show, Jerry. Tom has run into a situation that's kind of complicated, but I'll just give you a quick overview. He's run into a situation where it's a probate deal, along with some other wrongdoing that he believes was done. His dad was passed away. He believes there may be evidence that his dad didn't die under natural circumstances. He's gone through the courts. The courts he feels the courts have turned their back on him. The judges, the police. He's turned in evidence he's tried to turn in evidence to the state attorney, but the state attorney won't answer him. So my suggestion to him was, see if you can get a grand jury. Can he get a grand jury if he has enough evidence? Can he circumvent does it have to come from the district attorney?
Yes, and that's the problem. He can try to request an interview with a grand jury, but more than likely they'll push him off on a district attorney. That's usually the procedure because the district attorney has to see that the case has merit to go before a grand jury, and that's the problem. So an individual can't just request an interview with the grand jury.
Wow. So how about a district attorney from a different jurisdiction? Would that?
Yeah, he could go to a different jurisdiction depending on where it's located and where he's located.
He's in Florida.
He's
in Florida.
Okay.
He's up in the Panhandle.
He's up in the Panhandle. Okay, what kind of problems has he run into with the local district attorney and the state attorney?
So he says that he sends requests to them, and they will not respond.
Well, that's how is he sending the request? By phone call?
That was the first thing I asked. Yeah.
Email. I've emailed and sent certified mailings to the district attorney, as well as the FBI, as well as the FDLE, FE Federal State Agency, and no one has ever, and the judges. I've also certified mail, and no one has ever responded. They won't respond.
Okay. What is the issue that you're trying to get someone to pay attention to?
There's several issues. The first issue is my father's cause of death, because that's where the ball starts rolling. And until we determine what the actual cause of death is, I can't go any step. I can't take another step, because if the cause of death that I have the evidence to points to criminality, then we have to address that. And so that's what I'm trying to do. Once a district attorney says, hey, listen, you don't have a case here, there's no, he died, whatever, then I can move on to the next step. But nobody will respond to the evidence that I have.
Did you do an autopsy on the body?
Okay. The sheriff did not do an autopsy because he said my father had decomposed more than 75%, which disqualified him from having an autopsy.
That's not exactly true. They can still do an autopsy on him because they can do blood work and see if he was poisoned. They can do toxicology.
That's funny.
So they had him cremated, Jerry.
Well, they made me cremate him. They had me cremate him.
Who had him cremated?
I did.
Cremated him?
I did.
Then you
under the direction of that.
In the foot.
Say that again.
You shot yourself in the foot because now you have no evidence.
Well, and you're right. I shot myself in the foot because, again, I was misguided incorrectly. And what I'm finding is that all these professionals that were surrounding me at the time have given me the wrong information and left me with, I don't want to say no evidence, because I have a witness who confesses to what happened. And so,
here's the problem. It's like, it's hard to convict somebody on a murder charge if they can't find the body. And right now you don't have a body for them to verify that there was, any active criminal activity there. And that's your whole problem. Nobody's going to take that case. And
he's finding that out. Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to have a real difficult time getting anywhere because you don't have a body.
Right. I know that.
That's your first problem. So now you can bring up to whomever that he was murdered. You have no proof.
Right. I understand that. However, the circumstances that surround the probate and surround the other matters in my father's estate would be the next step. Then that's what I'm doing. I'm taking the next step now. So I'm civilly suing the people involved.
That would be the only next step you have a choice of, is to criminally or civilly sue. Are you trying to dispute the estate?
Am I trying to? Can you explain what you mean by that?
Are you trying to claim, or is the estate going to somebody you don't want it to go to, or did you not get your portion of it? Is that the problem?
Okay. Yes, because what I believe and what I know, or what I'm told, is that there is funds or money in the amount of approximately $6 million that a sibling has that he will not disclose to the courts because it's an IRA account. I don't know the details. So we need to get to the bottom of that. Is this an IRA account? Was he beneficiary? Was he not? There's no proof to say what's going on there. So that needs to be addressed.
You're going to have to sue whoever has the control of the assets.
Nobody.
And nobody?
Well, it's in probate. It's just sitting there in probate.
Okay, but who's going to get? Who is the money supposed to go to?
I have no idea. Well, I'll tell you this.
Did he not have a will?
He had a will. Then the will is missing. Somebody ransacked his house. See, here's the problem. Had Carmine Marciano, the sheriff in Lee County, taken a police report the day I arrived at my father's house, he wouldn't have been cremated. I would have addressed a lot of things that happened prior to this. But Carmine Marciano, the Lee County sheriff, tells me it's all civil and he's not taking any reports. Even though I called the sheriff's office many, many, many times, and I have an email that I sent him over generalizing our conversation, that he is not going to take any reports, even though somebody broke into his house, even though there's identity theft, they wiped his computer clean. I mean, so many things prior to me getting down to his house when I was told he was dead. So they even sabotaged me with that. And so I've been misguided the entire process, is what I'm saying, from every single person that's involved, anyone who's in law enforcement or the judicial system. And it seems like this is it was a cohesive, planned effort.
Who told you? Hang on just a second. Who told you to cremate him?
Actually, it was. Let me go back. Let me think in my head. Okay, so the crematory called me and said, "Your father's remains are here. What do you want to do with them? He's supposed to be cremated." And I said, "Well, I guess we're going to cremate him." And they cremated him.
Who sent him to the crematory?
I don't know. The sheriff, I guess. Whoever was at my father's house when they found him dead. See, this all happened, Stephen. This was all done before I even got there, before I was even called that he was dead.
I'm trying to give you information, questions to ask. Somebody had to release the body. Who released the body to the crematorium? Why didn't they just release the body to you and let you make the decision of what was whether he's going to be buried, where he's going to be buried?
Does he have any relatives that's involved in this?
Yes,
other relatives?
Unfortunately.
Okay. Well, that's what happened. Is what one of the relatives told him to take him to the crematory because it would have.
Yeah, they can't do it on their own, right, Jerry? They can't just send them. Right. No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I was getting at. Yeah.
Wouldn't that have to be documented somewhere?
Yes, the morgue that had him, the coroner. You go to the coroner, find out, get a copy of the death certificate, find out who the coroner was, then go to the coroner's office and find out who had him released to the crematory.
I was told to sheriff.
The paper trail. You got to follow the paper trail, and the person that released him to the crematory is more than likely the person that wants the money.
Okay, wow, that's another Steve. That's another. This is another path that no one explained to me. Okay, so wow, that's interesting. Okay,
that's what I was saying. They can't just, the coroner can't just say, okay, ship him over to ABC crematory, right? They can't just do that. They have to. Somebody has to say they're gonna assign that body to somebody, and usually it'd be not a sibling, a partner. So he didn't. Your mom had passed away, right? Your mom wasn't around anymore, correct?
Yes, my mom died long ago.
Okay, so they would probably, somewhere along the line, he may have signed one of those agreements that say, well, if something happens to me, contact, in case of emergency, contact, blah, blah, blah.
Me.
But it wasn't you. It was somebody else, because, again, you tell me that your sister-in-law knew before you did that he passed away, and you were the one who got the call. So something's fishy with all of that. This is just a lot of stuff that doesn't add up.
Right, Stephen. The detective confirms with me that he's the only one. He's the only one I called.
So
who made these arrangements? It had to be on the side.
Find out who released the body to the crematory, because that person is responsible for withholding evidence.
Stephen. And what's your friend's name? I'm sorry.
Jerry. His name's Jerry.
That's profound. That is very, very significant to this entire process, because nobody.
Well, you got to follow the paper trail, and the paper trail starts with the death certificate, and then the morgue. You'll find out from the morgue who released him to the crematory, because they just don't randomly ship him off to a crematory.
Yep.
Someone has to pick the
Instruct
location
them.
to send that
exactly.
body.
Right.
See, but here, remember, I'm not in the picture at all. So this is all happening before the phone call to me is made that he's dead. So when I call the sheriff, he says, well, he's at the crematory. You got to get him cremated. The sheriff has to know who authorized it, because I would think, now that you're saying this to me, because the sheriff never tells me
that. He may
this.
not know who authorized it, but the coroner will.
Well, yeah. Well, wouldn't the
sheriff
coroner
is just probably looking at a report saying, okay, the body's now at the crematory, and that's what he's telling you.
And that's fine. But wouldn't the sheriff have to understand that somebody had to authorize it? If I'm saying, hey, okay. Well, he never guides me on that.
But I don't think they authorize it through him. They authorize it through the coroner. So
I get that.
Yeah, the sheriff's not going to be involved in that at all.
Yeah.
It's the
Okay.
coroner.
Yeah.
So the sheriff's going to stay out of this completely, and they're not going to take it as a potential murder because they don't have a body.
Right.
And so you have no proof of
That's
death.
right.
Well, you can't say you got shot or you got poisoned or whatever. There's no proof of that now. And so and you can accuse somebody all day long, but you've got to find evidence to to charge that person. And it could be the will that might be the issue. Who's going to get the money would obviously be the most likely subject. But again, you gotta find the proof, and you've got to find a reason. And a sheriff's not going to, you've contributed to the demise of the case by having them cremated.
Well, yeah, now I'm hearing that. Yeah, I'm just learning that right now with you, Jerry, because again, my father this is the first time he died, honestly. So if I could do it again and do it right, I would.
I apologize. I apologize.
Stephen,
I didn't mean to
Stephen, I'm sorry, but you can laugh. It's funny. That's why I said it. But so what I'm learning even tonight is that there's more misguidance than I really understood. And I mean,
if there's any doubt in someone's death, the first thing you don't do is cremate them, because you kill any chance of finding out any kind of, you want to know why the person died anyway, and cremating them kills any of that. Unless you're part of having him killed.
Well, here's what happens. Yep. The sheriff tells me your father had a heart attack, and the coroner documented he had a heart attack. That's what the sheriff told me. So why would I not believe the sheriff?
Well, until if you don't have a will,
right,
and you don't have any paperwork saying that you have authorization for anything, then you're kind of you're like a child left out in the cold. I mean,
that's right.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah.
But just because I'm left out in the cold doesn't mean that a criminal gets to walk away from a crime.
Well, hold up. The point behind it is, what makes you think there's a crime involved?
There's a lot of unanswered questions here.
You have all night?
Here's a couple of things. His sister-in-law called him to tell him that his dad had passed away. No, excuse me. His sister-in-law knew that his dad had passed away a day before he got the official call. He when he went down to see his dad's house, it appeared as though that somebody had already been in the house, that his mail was missing. He claims that his dad got lots of mail. There was no mail. He also looked at his dad's computer. He believes that somebody went through the computer and must have wiped out some information on the computer as well.
Stephen, I have two companies, my private investigator and a certified computer technician company, who sends me a letter verifying that computer was officially wiped clean professionally. I have those documents.
So they
Just
were
so you
not
know.
able to.
Okay. Who stands to gain out of all this? Who stands to gain?
My
Your
father's dignity. That's it. And my
Pardon?
father's legacy. And
What about? Yeah, but Tom, you were saying something about millions of dollars.
yeah, well, this to me, that's going to come.
I know you don't want the money. Don't wait a minute. I know you made that
It's not that
clear.
I don't want it. Here, that's not my priority. My
That's not your
priority is
interest. Yeah,
my
that's
father's
not your
death.
interest. Yeah, okay, but there's money involved. So who? The question is, who gains from who has
Stephen
access?
Pepe.
That's your brother.
Yeah, Stephen Pepe has those accounts.
So I don't know if there's any way you can force him to divulge what he
Well, the
has.
court won't do it. The courts won't do it.
You can privately subpoena his, the records to your father's estate.
I can privately subpoena them.
Yeah, you can hire an attorney wherever you are
Just
and have
that.
him, and just have him subpoena the records, and you're going to have to file suit against them. If you don't care about the money, why does this matter?
I'm not saying I don't care about the money. That's not the first step. The first step for me is to determine, because of all the evidence that is around me, is the evidence pointing to murder or not. And I need to know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
How old was your father?
He was 84.
Okay. Did he have any health issues?
He had a heart attack a couple of years prior, but received a clear bill of notice maybe a year or two before he passed away.
Okay. But that, 84 is kind of
a good age.
If he's had a heart attack before, who would want to kill him?
If he's had a heart attack before, who would want to kill him? I don't see the connection in that. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm just asking two questions.
Yeah.
He had a heart attack before.
Correct.
Next question is, who would want to kill him?
I can't see anybody wanting to kill him. I can't see anybody wanting to kill him. He was such a nice guy. I mean, he was a nice guy.
But you're claiming he was killed.
Yes.
So who would you think would want to kill him?
Well, I can tell you that. I'll tell you this. My sister-in-law says to me, Linda Catano, Stephen Pepe, and Anthony Catano killed your father. And I say, why are you saying that? She says, because I'm telling you, and your brother Michael knows, and there was money transferred to your brother to keep it quiet. Now, Michael Pepe has since committed suicide. So my main person, witness, whatever you want to call him, is now dead. So that takes that out of the equation. So if you ask me that question, it would be now my brother's long-term girlfriend of 20 years, Ellen Kahn, who is my sister's sister-in-law and my brother's sister-in-law. So my sister-in-law.
Who stands to get the money?
Stephen Pepe, Linda Catano.
Okay, then you file suit against them and subpoena their records.
Civil suit, Jerry? This is civil, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It has to be a civil suit.
Yeah. Okay.
In the federal court.
And you're going to have to, and you can accuse them all day long, but if you have no evidence whatsoever of them,
what do you consider evidence? What is considered evidence?
Evidence
a body?
Is some kind of ulterior motive for him. Yeah, you need a body. That would be the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's, right now the difficult part is, how do you prove they killed him? What's the motive? The motive is the money. Okay. But then you got here's a defense method for the other side. He's 84 years old. He had a previous heart attack. He just died of a heart attack.
That's right.
Okay. That's the other side against you.
Correct.
To prove that we killed him. We stood to gain $6 million. Well, if they're in the will anyway, you don't have a will.
They weren't.
It was an intestate. Okay. The will was missing.
Okay, see what I mean? You have no evidence.
It's not. I have no evidence. Okay.
You have. Okay, wait a minute, Tommy. What he means is, what your evidence is circumstantial.
Correct.
You need hard evidence. That's what he means. He doesn't mean that what you're saying isn't true or what you're believing isn't correct. He's talking from a court standpoint, where you're standing in front of a judge and you're saying, "Oh, well, he did this and he did that," and the judge is going to say, "So here's say, see you bye." They're not going to hear it. So that's what he means by you don't have the evidence.
Correct.
You need hard evidence of some sort.
You know, you have to show that they were going down to his house or staying in his house
and
repeatedly.
Yeah,
and that can be retrieved because there's cameras all over his community. They were a crime watch community. So if somebody was going to his house at night, it would be on those cameras. So there's
subpoena the records.
You know, get an attorney, have them subpoena those records.
Jerry.
And
I
you
love
know,
it.
that's what it's going to take for you to do. And if you're
Jerry, does it have to be an attorney to do the subpoena? Can he do it on his own?
You can write up a subpoena yourself and submit it to the county clerk, and then you'll have to pay a process server to have it delivered to the person. Yeah, you can do it all yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. That's another gold nugget. Another gold nugget here.
Tom,
Thank you.
You're getting some info tonight that you didn't have before. That's cool. And to the people who are listening, we got I can't tell exactly, so somewhere around 100 or so. This is the problem that you're going to have if you don't set all your records straight before you pass away. Every one of us has got to go at some time or another. And if you don't set the record straight before you go, you leave for those people who are grieving you a nightmare. I mean, Tommy isn't the only one that I've heard this from. I have friends I've been privy to live 72 years, so some of my friends didn't make it as long as I did. And when they left, it was such a nightmare because nobody, they were younger than me. One of them was in his 50s. Nobody expected to die. And they died, and sadly for them, go ahead.
There may be another side to this too. You know, some people may be just cantankerous old people that want to stir up trouble after they die.
Nah,
that's true.
That's not my dad, unfortunately.
You know, it's like me. I want to create chaos when I'm dead with my kids.
That's totally me. Yes, Jerry, that's me. But my dad, all he wanted to do was fish.
To go, oh, he's dead. I want to piss him off even more.
That's good. But Stephen, I have to respond to what you said because it's not a matter of getting the paperwork done correctly, your finances, whatever, before you die. It's not going through the probate court. What it should be is put everything in a trust. Everything in a trust and avoid probate.
Yeah.
Well, you can put it
That's
in a
the
trust.
real answer.
So it's still got to go to probate anyway. Then they'll reissue it back to the trust and the trustee, whoever that appointed.
But nobody can touch it.
Nobody can touch it. But if you want to create chaos, which I've got a will and I've got everything in trust, and then I've got my son-in-law will be the administrator to my granddaughter, and and he's with Department of Homeland Security, so I semi-trust him, but who knows? When it comes down to money, you can't trust anybody.
That's so sad.
That's right, Jerry. That's right. That's right. And that's part of the problem.
But, if I'm dead, I don't care.
I get it. That's funny because
I'm going to be looking down from heaven going, look at the chaos I caused.
Oh my God.
That is so true though.
Lord,
but that's the best getting back at your kids if they're not nice to you.
Jerry, that is very good.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. Here, the piece of information that you have shared with me is very helpful and very useful. So I thank both of you gentlemen first of all. But it's at the core of my soul because my father was a veteran, and he did everything by the book, sir. And I just know this is just not right, and that's what it's really about.
Well, and unfortunately, some things like this happen. I mean, I was privy to a scenario in past years where a woman who her mother and her were at odds with each other right up to the last minute. And I found this out afterwards. They were fighting, and the mother was just wanted her to shut up, so she gave her a muscle relaxer and gave her a shot of whiskey. And this woman was 84 years old. Guess what it did? Stopped her heart.
Yeah.
Stopped her heart. And she didn't intentionally want to do that.
Yeah.
She just wanted her to
shut
be
her up.
quiet.
Yeah.
Shut her up, all right.
She shut her up for good.
Oh, I shouldn't be laughing.
It's funny though.
I mean, but whoops. What do you say on that one?
Yeah,
Well,
right.
I have one. My mother didn't speak to me probably the last 10 or 12 years of her life. When she died, I did not expect to be in her will. And I was named in her will. And I told my siblings, whatever you do, whatever you want to do, I don't care. Yeah, because I really didn't expect anything. And 6 months later, my older brother calls me and says, "We found a note." I said, "No," and no, we can't be, right? And sure enough, she left a note. Make sure Tommy gets nothing. And so they came at me for the past 12 years. So she's been probably laughing her ass off. Ha ha. I did nothing to her.
It's hey,
The way it is.
The problem is, you never know what your parents are going to do or what your kids are going to do or what you're going to do to your kids. It's
That's
like
right.
if my kids had been, always around helping me out and doing stuff for me, they would have had a gold mine. And I've tried to give my kids cars and they get mad at me because I took a toll tag off of it. And stomps out of the house and doesn't take the car. I'm going like, are you really that stupid? So I mean, needless to say, you can't predict what your kids are going to do or your parents are going to do or whatever, and all you can do is try to live your life and and reward people that are good to you. And
I agree.
or innocent people. That's why I'm giving everything to my granddaughter, because she's never done anything wrong.
Right. Well, I'm spending every penny I have, and hopefully some of yours if I can.
I'm trying to figure. I just like to get garage sale for my house for all the crap I got in here.
Oh my.
But yeah, I would suggest that you hire a probate attorney.
No. Really?
He's already done it.
already. Yeah,
He's
no.
been through the mill with
Yeah.
this.
More misguided there too.
I had suggested to him, is it possible that you could privately request a grand jury from a judge? That's why I got you on the phone, because I was hoping if he could do that, present him with the evidence that he has, although as much of it is circumstantial, maybe he could get to the bottom of what's going on.
They're not going to take it because the problem is the body's gone.
Yeah.
And you have the only circumstantial evidence you would have at this particular case is to point at one or two people and said they wanted him dead. Well, whoopee-doo. Okay. So, how many times have your kids said to you, "I wish you were dead"? I can count.
Oh man! Oh, Jerry, that's such a litigation excuse. Here, saying somebody "I wish you were dead" is far different than having connecting dots to a series of events that happen that are critical in someone's death. That's a very different. Two horses of a different color.
But again, you don't have the body.
Have the hard evidence. Yeah.
I understand I don't have the body, but if I'm told from the law enforcement, or I'm not told by law enforcement that that's critical to don't cremate him yet, how? So that means that the person that could have been murdered should get no justice? I mean, shouldn't it be looked into?
Well, unfortunately, that happens all
the time. Wow. That is the answer I don't want to hear. That's the worst answer.
There are so many people that get away with murder because, first of all, there's hundreds of thousands of murders nationwide.
Yeah.
Do you think they have, and you hear all these crime stories? Well, it was a cold case. 25 years later, they solved it. Well, okay, that's 25 years later. Whoopee-doo. It's way after the fact. The person's lived their life, but they have to have blood toxicology reports. They have to have, the body or some way to prove the malfeasance there that has happened. And, you can't watch these crime shows and go, oh, they did it on TV, because that's not real life. It's, it's sensationalized.
That's another bad answer. to
Yeah.
me, that's a bad answer.
I know, but the problem is that's reality because.
Well, no, that's a created reality. Because what you're saying to me is that I should just accept the fact that there's murders. And in God's law, that's not acceptable. It's just not.
It's not acceptable.
That's why I'm his warrior.
Okay. But again,
I'm sorry, not accepting that.
What evidence do you have that it's murder? And who would have murdered him? Your sister?
Yep. She sure did.
Okay.
She sure did. Well, let me ask you this, Jerry. If I accused you of murdering your mother and you didn't do it, what would you do?
Well, you'd have to defend yourself. But the point of it is, I'd say, prove it to me. Prove it to me.
Well, Jerry, I just accused you. You accused you killed our mother, Jerry. What are you going to do about it?
Not a thing, because you have no
There's
proof.
no evidence. That's the problem.
So I
have evidence. It's what. Go ahead.
No district attorney's going to take that case on.
That's right.
I think they killed him. I believe they killed him. I want to believe they killed him.
Mm-hmm.
But a district attorney's go, okay, show me the proof. Oh, well, they got all this money. Well,
not the money, but a confession. There's a confession.
Okay. Well,
I mean, a confession.
The whole point.
Where's the confession?
Whole point behind it is
Ellen Kahn. Okay. Ellen Kahn tells me that they killed him. That's a confession.
Do you have it in writing or recorded?
I sure do. I have it in Facebook Messenger. In writing. And I asked her to please report it to the FBI, and she won't. You know why? Because she's afraid of being retaliated against. That's her response.
Okay. If retaliated by whom?
By my sister. By my sister and her husband, who's a cop. A New York cop.
He's a New York cop. Oh,
yeah.
God, that makes
really
it
helps,
even
doesn't
worse.
it? Doesn't that really
well, no
help?
kidding. Who hung out with Monsanto all their lives.
Okay, then he's going to know exactly how to get off.
There you go. That's my point.
Okay.
So, now.
You've got a really uphill battle, and the whole point behind it is what you're trying to do is you're trying to get, okay, do you want to solve a crime or do you want to get some of the money?
Solve the crime. He wants to solve the crime.
More importantly is my father deserves justice. Let me say something, Jerry. My father fought for this country, okay? And there are people on this earth that took his life. He fought for our lives, and his own children took it.
Okay. Why do you believe this?
Oh, gee, I only got 100 million pages of circumstantial evidence, and I have a witness who's telling me they did it. I mean, and if you connect the dots, I bet you if you got the cameras from his area, you'd see Linda Catano driving up to his house every.
You got to do that. You got to do that, Tom.
I understand that. Now I just got that, Stephen, tonight.
I mean, and you better hurry, because how long ago did he die?
5 years ago.
Oh my God, those tapes are gone.
Yeah,
maybe not.
The answer is always, see, this is the problem. This should not be so difficult. It really should not. And
first of all, you're 5 years, way down the road.
He may be 5 years down. Sure, he may be 5 years down the road, but he started right away.
Yeah, I've been telling the courts since day one.
Yeah.
Okay, but the problem is all your source of information's probably gone. Nobody keeps recordings for 5 years. Rarely. Usually
I keep taxes for 7.
Pardon me?
I keep my tax records for 7.
Yeah, but that's taxes.
That's taxes. You have to keep them for that long.
Okay.
But video, people record over the tape all the time.
No, I'm talking about the city, Fort Myers. They have the crime watch by the community, the city, who's ever running it in the city of Fort Myers. My father was part of it. My father was a security person.
Okay, well then start with that.
Yeah, well, see, there you go, Steve.
Great. If you can get those tapes, great. Then you can start putting pieces together. But be like a detective. You have to have, okay, here's the person. Now, how do you think she did it? Why do you think she did it? And what's the benefit? The benefit for her is to get all the money.
Mm-hmm.
The reason she didn't want to wait, so she put him down quicker than he would have died anyway. So there's the motive, there's the action. How did she do it?
She poisoned him.
He believes that she poisoned him with rat poison of all things.
Okay, well,
because
again,
it's not detectable. And that's what Ellen Kahn tells me that she was told by my sister, because my sister's husband is a cop. so,
okay, well,
so they do all this
again,
investigating.
you don't have the body.
I understand that. But here's what I'm saying. I don't have a body. I get that. It doesn't mean it didn't happen. That's what I'm saying. It does not mean a crime was not committed.
You could
not
believe
arguing
this
that,
all day long. You could believe
Yes.
this all day long. Again, but trying to prove it is the problem.
It's a different story. Yeah,
I get it.
situation.
So how much, okay, so you're telling me that the only possible way anyone's ever going to believe this happened is a body. To say what?
No, not
What is that body going to tell me?
I'm not
That
saying
he died of a
that.
heart attack.
I'm saying the reality of it is, based on his age, the previous health conditions he's had before, and nobody, it's people
like,
are going to go, he just died of old age.
You're trying to climb up a pole that's been greased, is what he's trying to tell you.
Yeah, I understand what he's saying. I understand.
If you want something out of this, okay, sue your sister and get it up in court, and then the evidence can be brought into court, so you could win some of the assets of the the money, and then the evidence would come into play with the potential death of your father being caused by your sister. In the civil litigation, you could bring those issues up.
Correct.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. That's exactly what I'm doing, Jerry. That's exactly what I am doing.
That's the only option you have right at this stage.
Well, here's another failure.
What you do is, once you sue somebody, you have the right to look through all their dirty laundry.
Really?
Where were you on these
Called
dates?
disclosure.
What were you doing this? Why were you seeing my father?
Yeah.
Why were you spending all this time with him? What kind of food were you feeding? What, and then maybe there's records of her buying antifreeze.
Oh, there is. Yep.
So now I know Walmart and a lot of these stores will keep records for
like
10
20 years. Yeah. Yep.
So, you can, you
also
can track that.
Also, this is a group effort, and I know they're in a group text because I did my homework, and I, like you said, act like an investigator, and I find out that they're all in a group text. So the text messages alone should be able to tell us a lot.
Well, and you can, once you get this lawsuit started, you can subpoena all their records, their text messages, their emails, their computers. You can even confiscate their computers.
Jerry, that's where I'm going. That's where I'm going, because like you said, once I do get the lawsuit going, then I can have all of those records subpoena, and I guarantee you there's a lot of chitter chatter. Guarantee it.
Well, and then if you can get that information, then you can take it to a district attorney.
That's right.
Until then, you have, you got your hands full of nothing.
Yeah.
Well, that's
that's a good piece
like
of information, though, Jerry.
Well, yeah.
Direction for to go.
Jerry, you know what is important? Because there's people on here that are going through the same thing, or have gone, or are going to go through this, and it's really for the people that are watching us right now.
Well,
I'm seeking.
It's like I give advice on people that are going to get married and are married and going through a divorce. There's a lot of things that you should do if you're getting married. You should have a prenuptial agreement. I don't care what anybody says, because most kids starting out going, well, I don't have anything to have a prenuptial about. Well, that doesn't mean you're not going to have something later on.
Yeah,
that's right.
And then what do you do then? And then all of a sudden people are getting divorced and they're all mad because they have to split everything up. And the same thing, with going through a divorce, you have issues with that. You're going through kind of like a divorce situation because you want to get answers, and you want information. And so to get that information, the only way you can get there to initiate a potential criminal investigation is to sue them individually, start collecting this evidence and saying, here's a video of them driving to his house to the day he died.
Yes.
And you bring that into the civil litigation saying, where were you on this date? I want to know exactly. I want to know if you've got GPS tracking in your car, I want to know. I want those records too. I want your cell phone tracking because the cell phones will ping towers and they have records of that.
Yes. You see what I'm saying, Jerry? This is what I'm saying, is that today everything is traceable. So when they say circumstantial evidence, it's really confusing because there's no mystery in this, right? To me, there's no mystery in a death. I've lost many people in my life, and I just know there's no mystery. So when I hear, well, it happens, that's not a mystery. That's not a definitive answer for me.
Well,
for my situation.
Again.
But now you're talking.
You got to have the proof, and you
I'll
start
get it
by right now getting a civil litigation started, and then subpoenaing all their records. You could subpoena, their cell phone records because they keep those for several years. You need to find out where their cell phone was pinging in by your father's house on the night he died.
Facebook Messenger. Facebook Messenger. I know they're using Facebook Messenger a lot.
Yeah, but that's where I would venture you should start. I know, Riscalla, we're getting close to the cutoff time for the show to end. So, I wish you the best of luck. But again, the first thing I would do is initiate a civil litigation and subpoena all their records.
I will do so. And I can personally subpoena them, or just I have to motion that to the judge?
Personally subpoena. You just, go on the internet, find out how you write a subpoena, and just take it to the courthouse and have it registered with there, and then you have them served. You're going to have to have that document served by the court. The court will, you pay the court, and they'll have a sheriff go out there and serve them.
Gotcha. Yes, I get you. Yes. Okay. Very good. Jerry, thank you so much, because this information is important to know in order for loved ones that are left behind from this devastation, because it's just about closure. For me now, I need closure. I was his son, and I deserve that, and he deserves for me to have that, because he was a great father, a great husband, and a great man. And I'm not going to settle for anything less. I'm sorry. And I hope that doesn't offend anybody, but that's the way it is for me.
Yeah. Well, if you believe that, then I would go headstrong into, developing a case against them and, get justice for your father.
Yes, sir. Yeah. He deserves it.
Okay.
Thank you,
best
Jerry.
of luck to you.
Thank you, Jerry. I appreciate you so much, Jerry. Thank you so much.
You take care. Best of luck
sir.
to you all.
God bless you, buddy.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, you got some options, huh?
Wow, Stephen, that's incredible. That's incredible. This is all information that I wouldn't have thought of on my own, or thought to research on how to get where I need to go. Right?
Yep. So got a couple more options now.
Yeah, this is huge, because this is really big, because I'll be working at it for this weekend, making sure Monday morning those complaints. I already started Stephen Pepe's. It's ready, 15 pages long right now, and I have another 30 to add to it tonight.
Wow.
So that's a lot of circumstantial evidence. If you ask me. I'm just saying.
Robert says he hopes you get justice for your father and yourself.
Thank you. That's all I want.
Awesome. All right, my friend.
All right.
I'm running down on the time, and I'm going to go ahead and let you. Any final thoughts you want to share before we go?
Yeah, I learned this week that it's not the whole judicial system. It's not all of law enforcement. That's what they would like you to believe. The actors that may be in your case, don't buy into it. Don't believe it, because there are a lot of good people out there. And for a long time, I didn't feel that way. And I'm starting to really see that as my actors run to hide, the sunlight is starting to come in again, and I'm seeing all the good again. So, yeah, so it's very important for people to know that, not to give up.
Amen. Well,
Yeah.
I wish you the best,
And
my
thank
friend.
God, right?
Yep. Amen. And Ted, you've been awful quiet the whole time, but I do
Yeah,
appreciate
thank
you
you.
hanging out.
Thank you for letting me come on.
I do appreciate you hanging out and listening and adding probably 1%, maybe a half of 1%.
Stephen, Ted knows about 1,000% of my case. So, he'll be at my trials.
Well, I wish you well, both of you, and
Thank you.
keep me updated, and we'll
Sure will.
we
And
have
thank
some
you for
major
having me
updates.
again.
Yep.
Thank you for having me again, Stephen. I appreciate you.
We'll have there'll be an archive on the Rumble site. If you go to Rumble Trim Radio on Rumble, you'll find an archive if you want an archive of it.
Yes, sir. I sure do.
If you want a copy of the file, the video, the audio file, I can get you a copy of just the audio, not the video, but just the audio if you want that. So just let me know.
I appreciate it very much, Stephen.
Yes, sir. I wish you the best, my friend.
Thank you, Stephen. I appreciate you very much, and God bless.
Thanks.
Okay. Have a great night.
Thank you.
All
All
right.
right, guys. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me tonight. It's a sad story when you don't have your things lined up correctly. The law can just be such a deterrent to trying to get you to resolve something, to your best benefit.
Yeah.
Tom has been run through the mill repeatedly. I saw this guy say this joke. I hope I get it right. There's only two things in life you have to worry about. I don't know if you've heard this before. There's only two things in life you have to worry about: whether you're healthy or whether you're sick. If you're healthy, you got nothing to worry about. But if you're sick, you got two things to worry about: are you going to get better, or are you going to get worse? Well, if you're going to get better, you got nothing to worry about. But if you're going to get worse, you got two things to worry about. Are you going to live, or are you going to die? Well, if you're going to live, you got nothing to worry about. But if you're going to die, well, now you got something to worry about. You got two things to worry about. Are you going to go to heaven, or are you going to go to hell? Well, if you go to heaven, you got nothing to worry about. But if you go to hell, you got two things to worry about: original or extra crispy.
Original extra. That's good.
Touche. I just laughed my behind off when I first heard that. It was one of the funniest things in the world. I said, "Oh my gosh,
true.
That's crazy." and we're surrounded. Let me see if I can play this real quick. This is I can't confirm this is real, but if this is real, this just shows you how far along we've come.
Hey, y'all, this new Huawei technology is absolutely out of this world. You can take files like photos from one phone, grab it, and move it over with just your hand. And that's not it. Just wait. You can also pass the file to someone else's hand and they can put it in the new device. And look at this right here. You can pass it to multiple different people and still receive the message. Is the data being downloaded in their bodies? And this part right here, I don't know if I fully believe. Because she passes this message through multiple floors of a building. Through different people's hands, bro. Look how they keep dapping up each other. That's them transferring the data. Is Huawei using the people's body to store it? I need to know. How the hell is this working? Arthur C. Clarke wasn't lying when he said that technology will be indistinguishable from magic.
Isn't that crazy? We know that technology is advancing at its fastest pace ever in history.
Yeah.
When I was a computer technician, before I finally left, technology was doubling at the rate of every 4 months. Every 4 months, technology was, and now I'm sure it's within days now because now they have the supercomputers and they have the AIs running. So I'm sure it's even faster than that.
Sure is.
It's crazy.
Yep, it really is. Yeah, it is. It's definitely a very quick process now. Yeah. I'm experiencing that, by the way.
All right, people. Well, I want to thank all of you for tuning in tonight. I appreciate you hanging out with us. I'll be back in a week. And Lord willing, and the creek don't rise, as my friend used to tell me. We'll see you then.
Good night, Stephen.
Good night.
take the red pill. Take the blue pill. 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 You take the red pill, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, 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 take the red. You stay in Wonderland. You stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.